Just like last time. Okay, now we're live. We're live now. Welcome everybody to our second annual Inspiring Role Models Virtual Conference. We will be starting roughly in a minute or so. So yeah, welcome. Yep, looks like we are live, I think. There we go.
All right, is everything set up on YouTube?
Yes. All right, so I'm going to start screen sharing and then let's just jump right in. So, yep. And then you see my screen?
Yep. All right, let's get started. All right. Welcome everyone. My name is Harold Wu.
And I'm Troy Shen.
Welcome to our second annual Inspiring Role Models Virtual Conference. It is truly our honor to be your host this year.
We are also current co-presidents of the Michigan Youth Empowerment Foundation's Youth Leadership Committee, which is in charge of organizing this conference. Michigan Youth Empowerment Foundation, founded in 2016, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering students K through 12 with the tools and knowledge necessary to succeed in the 21st century. Our programs are designed to foster students' interests in STEAM, leadership, and entrepreneurship, helping to bridge the gap between academics and real-world technological applications. Our initiatives include youth STEAM courses, community impact, and early career exploration.
Amazing, Troy. Well, for today's event, we would have not been able to any of this without the help of our sponsors, GM, Nextier, Comerica, Sensata Technologies, and of course, Extreme V. In addition, we would also like to show our grateful gratitude to our various partners. We would like to quickly take a few minutes to introduce and thank our sponsors and partner organizations.
Yeah, so first off, we have General Motors. If you haven't heard of General Motors yet, GM is a Detroit-based multinational automotive manufacturing company with a goal to deliver world-class customer experiences at every touchpoint and to do so on a foundation of trust and transparency. GM has been generous enough to invite our opening keynote speaker, Christine Panko, to share her story.
Up next, our next sponsor, Comerica, is a financial services company headquartered in Dallas, Texas, aiming to create a workplace where the best talent seeks employment. Comerica has also invited our closing speaker, Brandon Van Sickle, to talk about his experiences.
Our last major sponsor, Nextier, is an American automotive parts supplier based in Auburn Hills, Michigan. Their goal is to be the global leading motion control technology company, accelerating mobility to be safe, green, and exciting. Speaking of green, the Nextier sustainability team will be presenting today. More information on that later.
All right. Well, moving on to our partners. First, we have the Letters of Gold, a student-led organization with a mission to give hope to people in times of need through providing an opportunity for people around the world to write letters of compassion, love, and resilience. You can also learn more about them on their website located at www.lettersofgold.org.
Our next partner, Bytes and Pieces, is a student-run organization dedicated to mentoring students in coding, AI, and music composition in the form of workshops. Once again, if you want to learn more, you can visit their website at bytesandpieces.techno/jewels.repl.co.
All right, up next is the Illuminate Business, a youth-led organization dedicated to helping students learn the fundamentals of business and exploring different business careers and industries. Many face confusion when selecting a career path because they lack hands-on exploration with different fields and industries. While some may know that they are interested in the business realm, they often overwhelm themselves with the vast range of business-related careers. You can also visit their website at www.illuminatebusiness.org.
Our next partner, the Coding Foundation, aims to bring free, effective, and encouraging CS education for all students. To do so, the Coding Foundation offers free mentoring to foster a love in coding technology for kids. If you're interested, you can visit them at tcf-website-versal.app.
All right, second to last is the Gift of Learning, which works towards educational opportunities for students struggling in classes from the 1st to 10th grade. You can find more about them on their website at www.tgoaltouring.org.
And last but not least, we have YP STEM, or Youth Pioneers in STEM, a nonprofit organization with the goal of helping students discover their passions in the field of STEM. If you're interested in their program, you can visit their website at www.ypstem.org/home.
Yep, amazing. And once again, thank you so much to all of our sponsors and partners for helping to make this conference possible. And with that being said, let's kick off this conference.
Yeah, so, well, let's get started then. Looks like we're gonna be seniors in high school this upcoming year. Feels weird, huh?
Yeah, I cannot wait to, finish off that last year of high school, hopefully nice and sweet this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
time really does fly. I mean, I remember my pride in becoming a middle school schooler like it was yesterday. I was super excited, like, soon I'll graduate high school, and you know what next? I'm gonna be a millionaire. I wish it was that easy. As high schoolers, we really are unsure of our future. What's next? What should we do in college? Why do we have to subjugate ourselves to the pain of studying for AP exams and the SAT?
Exactly. And another point that I find equally as important is finding and utilizing our passions. For example, let's say someone our age wants to pursue a career in writing. What steps should they take to improve their writing skills? Any tips for publishing? Or maybe that person does not know what they want to do with their lives. How can I find my passion? Is this even the right mindset? But I feel the most important question of all is how can we use our passions to make a greater impact on our community?
Yep. Unfortunately, schools really don't do a great job of answering these questions, especially on the last question Harold mentioned. Some of the most influential figures in history have led by example. And that is why we wanted to bring these impactful leaders to the stage as examples of successful and ambitious young leaders.
Well said, Troy. And with that being said, as adolescents strive to develop a sense of identity and purpose, role models become increasingly important in helping identify the behaviors, attitudes, and qualities that make up an impactful leader. At this conference, we strive to offer guidance and opportunities for motivated students around the world to help them pursue their passions. Additionally, we hope to provide everyone here with a space to inspire, collaborate, and innovate. To start the conference, we'd actually like to introduce a couple of polls. These aren't too complicated, just a couple of quick icebreakers to introduce our speakers. On your screen now, you should see the first poll.
Unfortunately, I don't think for YouTube we have the poll set up, so you can just type in the chat, have fun.
Yeah.
But our first poll of the day, if you can't see the Zoom, is one word to describe how you are feeling right now. With the answer choices excited, eager to learn, curious, and all of the above. Go ahead and take a few moments to submit an answer. While we're waiting for a few more attendees to fill this out, I'm wondering, Harold, what do you think out of these options, which one would you choose?
Personally, I think I would choose the eager to learn option, as there's so many new things to learn today from our various speakers that they will be highlighting, that there's just going to be so much information thrown to our audience today. But enough about me. How about you, Troy? What are you excited about?
You know what? I'm also eager to learn, but additionally, I'm both excited and also curious. So, I mean, for me, it's an easy choice, all of the above. Many of us really have spent countless hours into this, spent countless hours really into this conference. Additionally, as you mentioned earlier, I'm just we're eager to get some advice from our speakers this year. And I'm also curious about stories from our speakers. I love listening to different stories. It's just fun. So, yeah.
I agree with you. And I definitely think this weekend will be packed with amazing stories and knowledge from all of our various speakers. And let's take a look at what our audience thinks, actually. The majority right now says all of the above. So everyone is looking pretty excited, eager to learn, and curious, which is awesome to hear from everyone. For our next question, we want to ask everyone here, which field are you most interested in? This question is a multi-select question, so you can choose as many choices as you want. Our answer choices are STEM, business, music, writing, and activism. All right, Troy, while we have a couple of our participants fill out the poll, what do you think you're interested in for the topics that are listed?
To be honest, I'm really not too sure about my future. I mean, I really have been thinking about it. Like, I'm not sure because I can find myself in almost any career. I could think of myself as a businessman. I hopefully one day can get into activism. I love music. I enjoy writing too, and STEM is pretty much cool overall. In fact, I'm very interested in nuclear. What's it called again? Nuclear chemistry, physics. Yeah, nuclear physics. Yep, there you go. Thanks. That's something I'm very interested in. In fact, recently on the news, I saw something about fusion energy, and that's very cool, very shocking. In fact, how you can actually generate energy from fusion instead of fission. Because fission is a little bit dangerous and fusion is less dangerous. So yeah, but enough of me. Harold, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really cool topic. I'm also really looking forward to what the audience is saying right now. STEM. STEM is our top listed poll answer right now. And with that being said, I think most of the people have answered. So we're going to move on to our final poll question, which is the where are you from? We have all of the continents listed as our answer choices, except for Antarctica, of course, unless, we have one or two very special people here who happen to live among the penguins. But other than that, we have the following countries or the following continents: North America, South America, Asia, Africa, Europe, and Australia. Both Troy and I are here in the United States in North America, but I can't wait to hear where everyone else is attending from.
Wow, looks like the majority of us, as expected, are from North America. Oh, we have people in Europe and Africa. Wow, impressive. Yeah, we already saw so much global diversity from our partners ambassadors who helped us plan this conference. And I bet we have a worldwide audience here today. I mean, based on the polls, ta-da. Yeah, well, I think is that it for our polls?
Yep, that is about it for our polls. And with that being said, I know we've talked a lot about innovation, and for our keynote speaker today, we actually have Christine Pencao.
Yep, so Christine Pencao is an embedded software platform engineer at General Motors. During her time in her industry, she has focused on her energy on mobility. She started out as an autonomous vehicle embedded security engineer, where she performed threat modeling and risk assessment for vehicle components and subsystems, while also helping to ensure the implementation of security measures. Next, she worked as a cybersecurity penetration test engineer, where she conducted ethical hacking of automotive hardware and software. Recently, she started a new role as a software-defined vehicle embedded software platform engineer. She is working to architect services and apps that comprise a new software platform that will foster versatility and software-based personalization. Pencao has earned both her electrical and mechanical engineering degrees from Kettering University in 2017. Afterwards, she went on to gain her MBA from Walsh College.
Amazing, Troy. Today, we are excited to have Christine Pencao as our opening keynote speaker to share innovation as an art. And with that, it is our honor to again welcome Christine Pencao.
Give me a quick section while I transition.
All right, thank you. And thank you for the warm welcome. Hello, my name is Christine Pencao, and it is with great pleasure that I'm joining you today as the keynote speaker for the 2022 Inspiring Role Models Virtual Conference. Today, I will share with you how innovation has played a key role in my career. In addition, I'd like to equip you with tools that can help to empower you as you embark upon your journey. My resounding message is that innovation is often profiled as this exact science that you have to get down, but I'd like to dive into why I see it as an art. Moving to the next one. Thank you. All right. So let's start off by giving you some background about my academic and professional path and what's ahead. So I'm a Michigan native, and near the end of high school, I started looking into what I wanted to do next, and I saw the world as my oyster. In my case, I wanted to go to college, and I knew that I wanted to do something in engineering. In terms of formal schooling, I went to a small private school called Kettering University. There, I earned 2 engineering degrees, one in mechanical engineering and the second one in electrical engineering. It wasn't easy, given that it was projected that it would take about 6 years or so to complete the 2 degrees, but I was able to accomplish that goal of mine in the regular time span and graduate with my fellow classmates. One of my biggest takeaways from college is that it's not necessarily all of the theoretical knowledge. It's not necessarily, did I ace every class, but rather, did I go and build up the capabilities, the willingness to learn, and the willingness to deal with sometimes tough situations. So moving forward, during my time as an undergraduate student, I worked as a co-op as well. And there I was able to gain 2.5 years of industry experience. So that really helped to catapult me once I wanted to move on to my professional career. Afterwards, I started my first big girl job as an embedded security engineer. In this role, I performed threat modeling and risk assessments for vehicle components and vehicle subsystems. And this is really where I got my feet wet into the world of, okay, what does it look like outside of school? What's this world look like, and where do I want to go? Next, I moved over to, in this role, I was also able to confirm my want to expand my formal education. And there I figured out that I wanted to study business. I went on to get my MBA, and this helped to expand my understanding of how engineering and business really intersect. Because beforehand, it was like, okay, I believe this is a business value, but I really, while going to school, I was able to see, oh, there's these other facets that really play into it. And so it's not just the idea, but rather, what is the overall impact? What's overall impact for customers as well? Next, I moved on to an offensive security role, where I worked as a cybersecurity penetration test engineer. In a quick one-liner, I got the opportunity to conduct ethical hacking of automotive hardware and software. So essentially, I was working as an adversary, but from an insider perspective, and trying to find vulnerabilities and try and patch them so that those that actually have malicious intent were less capable and less likely to go and impact or conduct a breach. Just recently, I moved on to a new role as an embedded software platform engineer for software-defined vehicles. Here, I am working to architect services and apps that comprise a new software platform that will foster versatility and software-based personalization. So no longer will vehicles or any type of mobility that we're working on be stuck to the hardware that you were given when you purchased your vehicle. Instead, we'll be able to adapt and handle the new wants of customers as we move forward. All right, moving on to the next slide. Thank you. All right, so as you can see, innovation has been the focus of my career. And I'd like to help to solidify your core, as in, what is your driving force? I want to help to solidify that for you as you move forward in your journey. So you're in a pivotal moment of your life, finding your interests and figuring out what's next. For me, I chose a field revolving around innovation, and I have found different ways of looking at it and different ways of contributing. One where I can apply my smarts to live out the wants of my heart. Because for me, it's not just looking at things in a calculated manner. Instead, there's also seeing, does this help someone? Here, I use innovation to help improve the lives of others, while also protecting both their physical safety and data privacy. This has come in the form of computer networking, embedded design, and programming in my day-to-day job. I am fulfilled by this type of innovation because it is not a numbers game. Instead, I am directly impacting customers as well as their well-being. I am driving changes in mobility that will affect future generations, and I am proud to be doing this. For you, I'd like to reinforce that you can innovate in your own special way, and don't be afraid to draw outside of the lines. Thank you. Next slide. So we've splashed into the intent behind innovation, But now I'd like to share with you some ways to get started down your own path. Oftentimes people hit a wall here, given that they want to innovate, but don't want to rock the boat. I say to this, rock the boat, do it, and don't look back. Today, we live in a world where theoretical answers are often at our fingertips. Just go and check it out online. But we still have so much to solve in our ever-evolving world. And this is where the fun begins for you. Dare to stitch together these theoretical ideas and write your own innovation story. Dare to question, dare to disrupt, and dare to innovate. You have unique experiences that give you insight as to how to develop amazing concepts from idea to products and services. While starting out, go ahead and take a course in a field that you are interested in, but are maybe not familiar with. This is a hidden gem that I discovered early on as a way to explore and see, is that what I want to go into? Maybe, maybe not, but you don't know until you try it out. It helped me to see if the topic was something that I truly wanted to invest my time and talent into. And I recommend it for you as you go on. This is not something where education stops once high school ends. No, keep going, keep learning. In addition, when it comes to figuring out the money side of things, don't hesitate when applying for jobs. The worst case is that you're not selected, but apply elsewhere. Don't get discouraged. And if you're thinking about starting a business or a side hustle, go for it. Don't let time pass. It is a precious, non-renewable resource. So take full advantage of it. Next slide. Alrighty, we've explored intent, we've explored disruptions, and now we're on to possible hesitations or reservations when you think about innovation. When you're doing something new or something creative, a million things will pop in your head, some good and some bad. Let's face reality, you're probably going to be the biggest critic during your innovation journey. And I am here to help start erasing those fears and any form of hesitation that may hold you back. If you hold off until you have the optimal design, the most price-efficient product, the most robust service, your competition is going to be leaps and bounds ahead of you. Don't let that happen. Take the chance, live a little, and learn along the way. Innovation does not always have to have a straightforward trajectory, but that's where adaptability is key. Next slide. Once you get past the waiting phase, you can move right into the empowerment of your ideas. And this is where you let the ideas flow. In theory, it sounds easy. Write down the ideas, figure out the timelines, figure out the general costs for the product, and check the boxes. Just move right along, checking them off. And I can tell you, this is where the rubber hits the road. You have to move full steam ahead because you're going to have some pitfalls along the way. But that's where you go and just keep going, where you develop your proof of concepts, prototype them in isolated environments, and integrate new features. In my case, this often looks like working in sandbox environments or virtual environments and trying them out and then seeing what's good and what's bad. During this sometimes grueling process, don't lose sight of your why. With your why, you'll always be able to figure out the how. Lastly, dare to take critical feedback from others about your service or product. They care and they want to see you succeed. It will help you to see where there is even more potential to be released from your innovation. Next slide. All right, I'd like to tell you that innovation gets easier with time. In my experience, it hasn't. What has got easier is that my mindset has fundamentally shifted with these tools that I've shared with you. And I've curated them over the years to move through this process. So I hope they help you when you go through your process of innovation. I've had some great successes, but can't forget those times of failure. The one has taught me to be humble, and the other has taught me that it's most important to keep going. As you explore your innovation journey, filter the noise. Drill down on your driving force, and the rest will unfold. It won't be as simple as flipping bits, but it will be worth it in the end. I leave here today knowing that I got to reach out to some quiet yet rumbling talent that is bursting at the seams with a bright future ahead. So grab some shades because you're going to need them. And then last slide. Thank you so much for letting me share what innovation looks like in the real world. And don't forget, color outside of those lines and draw something the world has never seen before.
And that's it. There we go. Thank you. Let's see. I think we can take next 5-ish minutes for Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to put it into Zoom, YouTube chat, just, yeah, and we'll read it off to you.
And just a reminder, if you guys don't know where it is located, the Q&A box should be located on the bottom of your Zoom kind of like tab. Be kind of next to your questions that you guys have in there for Christine.
Personally, I have a question. So what do you think, what's like one of the most difficult, like what is one of your, let's say, worst failures, and then how'd you overcome it?
Failures. Yeah. So this one I would say is a failure that's more on a personal level, but I think it influenced my professional side as well. I beforehand was very focused on goals. I was very like, okay, this is my goal, and at this time in life, I want to have it done. And so I was like, that's my only focus, and anything else that gets in the way, well, it's a distraction, and that's it. And so that did not let me really be able to go and build connections with people. And so I had a pretty life-changing event where I was in a serious car accident. And after that car accident, it really helped to open my eyes and see that, you know, your time with others is limited, and you don't know when you will or won't be able to see them again. So really being able to connect with people and see that their ideas matter too, and that time is invaluable. So don't take it for granted. And from a professional side, that's really helped me to see also from a customer side of what they need, and that you really don't go and look at things of, okay, on the charts it says this, so that's all I need to look at. No, instead, listening to people, taking that feedback, and really being able to see how the numbers align to that. And it has helped me tremendously. That's something I had not learned in the past.
Yeah, I can relate. Like, we only live once, so make the most out of it. Yeah, exactly. We have a question from YouTube.
Okay.
What are some tips you have for people looking for experience but don't have the resources?
Yeah. Okay. So for me, I have found it so beneficial to honestly learn from YouTube. That is that's a big learning tool that I've used. I've also used lots of environments that are online, like Hack the Box and Udemy, where they've offered networking classes and such. I've also done crash courses on programming, because nowadays you used to see that C was the thing. That was the primary programming language. And you've seen this transition really over Python. So it's like, you got to learn quick. So I've always been willing to use those resources out there, because yeah, money can be tight, and maybe you're not able to go into a course all the time, but really seeing those online resources.
Yep. Yeah, hopefully, Ellen, that answered your question. Another question from YouTube is, oh, never mind. That's not a question. They asked to click on the link, which I doubt is very safe, but yeah. Looks like any other questions rolling in, guys, on YouTube or on Zoom? Carol, do you want to take this one?
Oh, we do have a question. Yeah. So a question from Olivia. How have your hobbies affected your job or work?
Okay. Yeah. So I've got quite a few hobbies. Like, I like volunteering. I also do modeling. And then I like doing ethical hacking and like bug bounties outside of work. So it's really it's like this perfect storm. And so it's always a balancing act, but I think it is helpful to have them because they give me a different spin on the world when I dive into each one. From the modeling side, I'm able to go and see a whole different industry where we're not popping up charts, where we're not going and programming. And so it helps me to see other people, and also what are things that they need in their life, because I don't always get to see that in my every day-to-day life. Then from the volunteering side, it really is grounding for me. It helps me to go and get away from work and really look at the world from the perspective of there are others that need the help. So why not help with your resources that you have available? And you may not be able to do it every day, but when you can, stretch yourself to reach out. So.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. A quick question for myself to you actually is, you do sound like you have so much on your plate, or a lot of things that you're really interested in. How do you kind of maintain a balance between your work and maybe some of the hobbies that you listed as well?
Yeah, no, that will be good question. So
because I know everyone has their own personal take. And you especially sound like someone who achieves so much and is so great. So I just wanted to ask a question.
Yeah. So I will say college was, again, very beneficial in that area, because I don't think I had time management down to a T when I entered college, but afterwards, when I was going to college, it was one of those things where I was like, I want to balance having a social life and having a whole pile of homework to do. So I need to figure out how to balance it. So I tried doing the electronic side of things of Google Calendar and time boxing. But for me, I still am super old school, and I use pen and paper, and I time box that way. That way I do undivided attention to a certain topic. And then from that point, I do 2-hour blocks, because again, for me, I know I will go all in for that time, give myself a break, move on to a new topic, because it helps me to recharge and reset and then refocus. So.
Yeah, I think time management's really important. I don't think me, Harold nor I have really good experience in time management. We're still in high school, so I mean, yeah, we have time to learn. I mean, but hey, I think this is why you're here to help us get better at this. So, yeah, I think we're gonna take one more question from the Q&A, which is, how did you discover your passions?
Yeah. Okay. So for me, I always had a knack for solving problems. I always was like, okay, there it is. Okay, what are the different approaches? And so I have always been the type of, okay, I did it wrong this time, doesn't mean I'm going to do it wrong the next time. And so I, again, have pretty humble beginnings, because I would go to construction jobs with my dad, and that's where I got to do a lot of hands-on kind of projects and see, do I like doing this? Do I like seeing other people appreciate my work? And from there, I was able to kind of start picking out and kind of searching of, how can I do this? And what are the different ways that I can do this? So I considered all over the place. I was considering being a lawyer, being a doctor, being an engineer, architect. I was like, oh, which one do I pick?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm in. Like I mentioned earlier during the polls. Well, we'll see, but yeah, thanks. I think that is all the time we have for Q&A, unfortunately. Okay. So, do you want to give your contact info, or?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, your email, would that work?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. So, how about you give Harold your email, and then Harold will put it in the Zoom chat. So, yeah, okay. And then we'll paste in the YouTube too. But yeah, unfortunately, that is all the time we have. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll share it in the chat.
And then let me start screen sharing again. Yeah. So, on behalf of everyone here today, thank you so much, Christine, for your inspiring words. Personally, I did learn a lot about innovation, especially about failure. Instead of being held back by it, we should use failure to grow so that we can find success in the future. So, if you want to contact Christine, as I mentioned earlier, like a few seconds ago, we've left her email in the chat, and we will soon put it in the YouTube chat towards the end of the opening ceremony. Once again, thank you so much for your time, and it is an honor. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Now, moving on, though, we will now get on to our guest speaker and closing speaker schedules. These can also be found on our website at myebeats.com/IRM-events on the screen right now. And yeah, let's just kick this off.
Yeah. All right. So for from 5 p.m. today, Eastern Daytime to 5:50 p.m., you will hear from Stephanie Wong, who will be talking about creating positive change through science.
Next up, from 6 p.m. to 7:50 p.m. Eastern Time, as I mentioned earlier, next year's sustainability team will present. Oh, excuse me. There we go. Next year's sustainability team will present on growing the green circle of sustainability.
Exactly. And then finally for today, we have Michael Wong concluding our day at 7 p.m., who is the founder and former CEO of Kutech Cayman, and we'll be talking about innovation and his experience regarding it.
Yep. And on Sunday, kicking off, we have Julia Davis talking to you guys all about transformational leadership.
All right. Forgive me. I just sent the link for Christine's email in the chat for anyone who was wondering. And yeah. And then after Julia attend Sarah Alonso Vega's talk at 5 p.m. to 5:50 about addressing the uncertainty of choosing a career path with a special method.
Can't wait to hear what that method is. Sounds very interesting.
Very special method.
Very special method indeed. Up next is Aaron Wayne, who will demonstrate the world of 3D printing and everything you can do with it. I actually sat into one of his rehearsals and it is amazing. You guys really want to watch that one.
All right.
Really,
I'm looking forward to it then.
Yeah,
right.
You better be there. You guys all better be there.
I will be there tomorrow. And then wrapping up tomorrow, we will be hosting a commemoration ceremony, including the raffle winner announcements, networking, and recognitions with our closing keynote speaker, Brandon Van Sickle, at 7:00 p.m. All right. And speaking of raffles, you will all be given the opportunity to enter one at the beginning of each event. This year's prizes include various ones such as Apple charging stations, a portable charger, a mini fridge, a phone holder, and even a speaker. Personally, I really want that mini fridge just because it seems so convenient and you can put so many things and it has RGB. So it looks amazing. But regardless, we are going to put out a link into the chat for the Google form. And yeah, we'll just have to see how lucky I get if I, have any chance of getting that mini fridge. And how about you, Troy? What are you interested in?
All right. Don't make fun of me, but I love dancing and listening to music in the shower, okay? So I really need that shower phone holder, okay? Don't make fun of me. All right, I just enjoy dancing in the shower. And I believe for each session, after each session, there will be, as Harold mentioned, there will be a form and a QR code. So right after the opening, I'm not sure after the opening ceremony, but definitely after the first seminar, during that break, roughly every 10 minutes before the next seminar, there will be a break period where you can scan. Is that actually wrong? No, it's actually after seminar. Is it? Or
I think repeat that one more time.
do you know when the raffle is? When the raffle will
Yes, so
occur?
the raffle will be tomorrow at approximately 7 p.m. with our closing ceremony.
Yeah, nice. And that's the ceremony. So yeah. Let's see. Here's the raffle instructions.
Yeah.
Oh, here's our first raffle.
So our first raffle does work. I'm pretty sure the bit.ly link might be the wrong one, but I will send out a link in the chat in a second here as well for anyone who is unable to access like the QR code. But of course, if you have a phone on you, all you have to do is go to your camera app and then hover over the QR code and you should be able to enter the Google form right there. And then just in a second here, I will also pull up the Google form link so you guys all have access to it. Okay, so the link has just been sent in the chat as well if you are on a computer and you would like to access it on your computer. But we'll give everyone a couple of seconds to fill out whatever you guys want for your information.
All right, well, good luck because it's luck. Last year I didn't win anything. Hopefully maybe this year I can. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. Or maybe I could
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Just
Hopefully you'll get that phone case, Troy, so you can sing sing in the shower by
stop
yourself.
making fun of me. I enjoy, okay. Well, I mean, the mini fridge also sounds like it is boiling right now. And I have to
Yeah.
wear full suit and tie, not no blazer, but it is hot.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think the fridge is would be very optimal. And all the
Yeah,
raffle
exactly.
prizes too are fun. So yeah, well, take a few minutes.
All right. Well, we are running short on time. So what I might end up doing is asking. So Christine Pankau, we have a number in the chat for you. If you would choose a number from 1 to that number, we would greatly appreciate that. And we will announce our winner again tomorrow at 7 o'clock. So make sure you be there so you can see whether or not you won any of the raffle prizes. All right. Moving on, at the end of each event, we will also be sending a feedback form to you just to kind of get a couple of thoughts. And we will be sharing a few of our favorite responses during the closing ceremony.
Sweet then. Right. Unfortunately, we are running low on time, so I don't think we'll have enough time for Q&A. If you have any questions, though, you can email us at wallasey@myfound.org. You can also just put it in the chat. We'll see it. We'll respond as soon as we can. And you can also, if for some reason none of those options work, you can always go to our Instagram at IRM Conference 2022. So yeah.
Yep. And once again, just a quick reminder, our first event today after this opening ceremony and a quick break will be Stephanie Wong's seminar on creating positive change through science, which will start at approximately 5 p.m. Eastern time or 2 p.m. Pacific time. We will also be using the same Zoom and YouTube Live for all of our first day, so make sure you stay on the call.
Oh. And that pretty much concludes our opening ceremony. Thank you guys so much for being here. We really do appreciate it. We're excited to kick off this conference, and it is our honor for both of us to be your hosts today. And we will now be entering our 10-minute break before our first workshop, and well, enjoy the conference. We'll see you soon.
All right, that about ends our break time, and now we're about to start our next presentation. Okay, so hello everybody, my name is Kevin Yang, and I am a member of the MMIE Youth Leadership Committee. Welcome to Seminar 2 of the first day of the Inspiring Role Models Virtual Conference. This seminar will be titled Creating Positive Change Through Science. The IRM Conference is hosted by the Michigan Youth Empowerment Foundation and is a 501c3 dedicated to promoting STEM and education and supporting K-12 students so they can thrive in the new technological world. Additionally, I would once again like to give a quick shout out to our partners and sponsors, for none of these events would be possible without them. Their work has truly allowed this conference to prosper and expand its reach to a greater audience. With that said, I'm very honored to moderate this seminar with Stephanie Wang as our speaker. Today, we're going to be exploring how you can create change in your own community through the field of science. If you have any questions while she speaks, feel free to send them in the Q&A function here on Zoom, or if you're watching through YouTube, you can drop the question there and we'll be sure to get to it. Remember to stay to the end of the seminar to enter a raffle that we are hosting. Let me get started by giving a brief introduction to Stephanie. So Stephanie has many notable achievements that make her an outstanding speaker with lots of experience to speak of. She's currently an incoming Harvard freshman, studying molecular and cellular biology and government. She's the founder of Project Unmasked, a global campaign for public health education, and the author of Epidemiology Unmasked, an introductory textbook used by thousands of students. She's also a research scholar, Science Institute scholar, Coca-Cola scholar, 3 times Science Olympiad national champion, and has been recognized by Congress and on the Times Square billboard for her work. Now, please welcome Stephanie Wang.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for allowing me to speak and present today. I will go ahead and share my screen. All right, so our presentation today is going to be on research and advocacy, and the overarching theme is to create a positive change in society through science. So thank you so much for allowing me to give this presentation today, and I'm really excited. So just a little bit of an overview about me. Kevin already covered a little bit, but I'm an incoming freshman at Harvard, and I'll be studying molecular and cellular biology and government, hopefully to attend medical school in the future. And some of my notable involvements include Science Olympiad, Project Unmasked, which is a campaign that I started, Epidemiology Unmasked, which is a textbook that I authored, and Kid Teach Kid, which is a nonprofit that I helped start. We'll get more into that later on in the presentation. And then this is just a little bit more of the detailed stuff. I'm not going to go through everything, but if there's something here that you're interested in or would like to know more about, just let me know at the end of the presentation in the Q&A section. Okay, so I would like to start off my presentation with this quote: "Science knows no country because knowledge belongs to humanity and is the torch which illuminates the world." So this, I think, encapsulates a core message that I want to convey today, which is that when we learn science, it's not for ourselves, it's not just for the pursuit of knowledge, but it's also to give back to society, to bridge inequities in the world, and really make a positive change in the world. And so today we'll cover different ways to do that, especially through research and through advocacy. Okay, so the first pillar that I wanted to talk about is research. And I sort of wrote a subcaption of explore, immerse, and discovery, which is sort of the core essence of research. So what we do in research is we explore unsolved questions in science, we immerse ourselves in those detailed fields, and then we seek to discover something new, something that can improve the current scientific community. So it may seem daunting at first, especially if you're a high school student, to get involved in research, but I promise it's not as crazy as you think it is. And we'll sort of cover today the steps that you can take to do so. Okay, so yeah, research is exactly one way that we can transform our knowledge of science into something actionable. We can change knowledge into innovation and something that is able to influence the world for the better. Okay, so I sort of talked about this a little bit already, but research is basically when you contribute to the cutting edge of scientific knowledge. This goes beyond just, for example, reading a textbook or going to competitions or talking about different scientific questions with your friends. This is more of just like you going out there and discovering something new. And to do so, you really need to immerse yourself into the field, learn a lot of background information, and understand things to the very deepest extent. And then that's when you can discover something new, pave your own path in this field. So these are some examples of research projects that I've worked on or that my friends in research have also worked on. So for example, identifying a new cancer pathway is you discovering something novel. Creating a new algorithm for data compression. This can have a wide variety of applications in data science, computer science, etc. So this is you doing something new. And then creating a new device for heart monitoring. This is also contributing new information, new material into the field of science. And so the overarching theme is that you are using your scientific knowledge to take action by building up existing technology. So notice that all of these are pretty niche, but they are adding something that is helpful. Okay, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about my research experience. So the first one that I wanted to cover was my most recent one, or my biggest recent one, which is Alzheimer's research that I conducted at RSI. And for those of you guys who don't know, RSI stands for the Research Science Institute, which is a program hosted by MIT and CEE. And so they provide 80 high school students, 80 rising seniors across the world, 50 in the US, 30 international students, an opportunity to conduct independent novel research under a professor who works on something similar in their field of interest. And so at RSI, I was able to work with a professor from Harvard Medical School, and I wanted to do research in Alzheimer's disease, which is a long-standing disease that affects millions of people in the world every single year. So in this research project, I was able to use data that my mentor gave me, as well as publicly available data, to identify potential pathways that this particular drug could target in Alzheimer's disease. And so I was able to get that information presented or not published, but I presented it at a conference. And then I was also able to present it at the RSI Final Symposium, use that project for different science fairs. So it was a very rewarding experience for me, and I'm still trying to potentially expand that research into the wet lab scene. So that was my most significant research experience. I've also conducted epidemiology research at Texas State University on vaccine distribution. This was pre-COVID, so it was very interesting to see how COVID could potentially be involved in that research project. And then I've also done some cardiovascular, more like cardiology research at Texas Tech University and with the Harvard School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, 2 different projects though. And then I've also done some independent public health research, more on public health education research and just general, more sociology oriented research. So that's sort of my experience. And if you have any questions about each particular project, you can just let me know and I'll answer that at the end. So now I kind of want to talk about how you can get involved in research. I know that a lot of high school students are intimidated by the idea of getting involved in research, but it's really not as daunting as it may come off at first. So what you first want to do is identify your field of interest. So that could be anything. It doesn't need to be the ones that I listed here. It could be like political science. It could be something along the lines of like math education, and anything at all could work as a field of interest. And then you want to determine whether or not you're going to need a lab. And so usually for biology and chemistry sort of projects, you may need a lab, but otherwise, a lot of times you don't really need a lab and you can just do data-oriented research. And if you do need a lab, then the next steps for you would be to find a lab, cold email. This could involve asking teachers or parents, visiting local labs and talking to professors, just doing general outreach. And this part can seem a little bit daunting, but you just have to power through it and give yourself lots of options to fall back on. And then also reaching out to mentors. This actually pertains to both lab and non-lab type research, but these mentors will be very, very crucial to the success of your project. As a high school student, we're always limited on our knowledge. So having a mentor there to answer your questions or guide you through a research question, help guide you through the different steps of the research process, this can be very, very crucial to your research. And so reaching out to mentors, that could entail like cold emailing, asking teachers and parents, potentially just calling professors who work in fields that you're interested in, and just having thick skin and really putting yourself out there and not being afraid of rejection.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Sorry, my bad.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. And then here are just some examples of research opportunities that are out there if you would like to apply for research programs. So RSI is probably the most selective one and the one that is probably the one that would require a lot of research experience in order for you to really to get the most out of the program. But there are some other programs that don't require as much of a previous, like as comprehensive of a background in research to apply. So there are some like the summer science program like SSP, and then there's also the Clark Scholars Program, Simon Summer Research Program. These are all pretty selective programs. And so, but I think they're all very worth it and worth a shot. And then you have the moderately selective programs that aren't as selective as the ones that I listed in the first four. So like Garcia, Summer Scholars Program, this one I think it's mostly in Math Sci and engineering. And then Welch Scholars Program, I believe this is only offered in Texas, but just double check on that. And then there's also one called the Rockefeller Summer Science Research Program. And then there are some of the other local programs that don't require as much research experience to get involved in. So I know the AEOP, or the Army Educational Outreach Program, has a lot of research internships available for high school students. And just another example of a local one is like, since I'm from Texas, like the UT High School Research Program is one that I know some students get involved with. So just checking with local universities to see if they have programs for students who are interested in getting involved in research. So those are for application-based programs. You can also do your own outreach if you don't feel like applying to a program. You can find local labs. So I live in Houston, so local labs here would be like the University of Houston, and then finding professors in those schools in your field who are working on projects that you are interested in, and just shooting them a quick email, asking them if you could get involved somehow or another. A lot of the times the objective is to create connections and to forge relationships with these professors. And then I think number 3 is very important, is to create a concise email template. You want your email template to be short and sweet and to the point. You don't want to go too rambly or make it too long, just making it very clear that you're interested in their field of study, and making sure that you are clear in what you would like them to help you do. And then if you're lucky enough, professors will respond and offer you opportunities. So you want to follow up very quickly and just to show your interest. And then you could potentially work with them either in their lab, or they can mentor you in a research project depending on what your goals are. Okay, now let's move on to what to do after you have created a research project. So these are just some ideas on things that students do after they complete their research project. So one of the most popular things that students, especially high school students, do is compete in science fairs. There are a variety of science fairs available. So some of the most popular ones are like local science fairs, and then state science fairs, and then ISEF. So usually for ISEF, you need to do well in a local science fair that is ISEF affiliated, and then you can participate in ISEF. And for those of you guys who don't know, ISEF stands for the International Science and Engineering Fair. So this is a really cool opportunity. Lots of students who end up participating in RSI participated in ISEF. So it's a great way to show off your research and get connected with other researchers of similar backgrounds and of similar age. You can also participate in other science research contests. They don't necessarily need to be science fairs. So for example, Regeneron STS is a very, very famous one that's open to seniors. This one involves seniors submitting a research paper and filling out an application. And they have like finalists, they have top 300 scholars, they have top 10, and they have huge monetary prizes. That one is a really big one for seniors. If you don't want to compete in a competition or some sort of science fair, you could also present your research project at a conference. So there are a variety of conferences available in lots of different fields. So if you just Google conferences, a lot of them will probably show up for you. So these are just some examples, like the International Conference on Public Health is one that I presented at. And then there's one that's called the Johns Hopkins Global Health Conference. These are just examples of conferences that you could find similar ones too. You could also submit it to a peer-reviewed journal. However, this is usually the more difficult way to present your research because journals are very prestigious, or at least the good ones are very prestigious. So journals usually have an impact factor, and this is some metric to show how prestigious a journal is. And so usually journals with high impact factors will be very difficult to get published in, whereas journals with low impact factors, they're not as prestigious. And so you want to search for journals that correspond to your field of interest, and then format it, work with your mentor on a manuscript, and then potentially submit it. These are just some of the more famous journals out there, but there are definitely others available. So you just want to search for the ones in your field of interest. Okay, so now that we covered some of the research portion of this talk, I wanted to move on and transition to the second portion of the talk, which was advocacy. And I wanted to make a quick distinction on what research and advocacy are. So research we just covered, it's creating something new in a very niche field of interest. And advocacy, on the other hand, is broad efforts to create positive change in communities that don't necessarily involve things that are too scholarly. It can involve mostly science communication, mobilizing the public, and enacting policies. So these are just examples. So we'll get into that right now. So yeah, the difference between innovation, which is more research, versus advocacy is that innovation is innovation is more narrow, it's experimental, it's definitely something that requires a lot of intense study into a very specific field. So you're creating cutting edge technology in the field, whereas advocacy entails communication and social change. So this could be running campaigns for scientific literacy or health literacy. And some of the results could be creating new policies enacted in various communities, or creating opportunities that are educational or health related, or just technology related, that are equitable for everyone. So these are just some of the broad differences between innovation versus advocacy. And I think both are very important to actionable science. So I'll also go a little bit into my advocacy journey and how I got involved in specifically public health advocacy. So I started off in around March of 2020, which is right when COVID hit. That's when I started writing my book, Epidemiology Unmasked. So the motivation behind the book was that I wanted to help prevent the spread of misinformation during COVID, and I really wanted to democratize epidemiology education for as many people as possible. So when I was learning epidemiology for different science competitions, it was very difficult for me to find a textbook that was approachable, easy to understand, fun to read, something that had a very not super steep of a learning curve. So that's what motivated me to write my book. So first was to disseminate knowledge, of course, and then to disrupt misinformation, and then to promote personal health responsibility. So if people are well-informed, well-educated about the basics of disease transmission, then it is much more likely that misinformation will be disrupted and personal health responsibility will be increased. And so then after writing and publishing my book, I decided that I wanted to tackle public health literacy through a wide variety of ways. So this is how I got started with Project Unmasked. And so I first received some funding just by applying to different grants. My first two grants were from Peace First and America's Promise. Later on, I got some larger grants from different organizations like Prudential, Riley's Way, just a bunch of different organizations that support youth-led social impact projects. And the mission of Project Unmasked was to spread public health literacy through education. So some of the things that my organization does is enact curricular change in schools, try to change the actual state curriculum to include access to public health education, and then also things like making public health education resources more accessible to the public. So this involves disseminating Epidemiology Unmasked and other curricular resources that we've created. And so, yeah, so in general, it would be curricular and legislative change. And so these are just some of the things that can be involved in advocacy work. So this is specifically focused on my organization, Project Unmasked. So first, the thing that I did was I used my local network, which is my school. I go to a large public school in the Houston area. So I talked to my biology teachers to see if they could teach my public health curriculum in their classrooms. And so that was the first step that I did. And then in order to expand, I reached out to the district and presented it at their curriculum and instruction conference for teachers across the district who went back to their schools and implemented that curriculum into their schools. And then I wanted to reach a broader audience, so I presented it to the International Conference on Public Health. And then afterwards, I wanted to reach into the realm of policymaking. So I spoke to various policymakers and leaders in the local community, like the State Board of Education, the school board, state representatives and state senators, as well as my former congressman, education advisors to different politicians, as well as educators at the CDC. And so these are just some connections that I've been able to make and to make an impact with. I've also tried to increase youth retention and youth interest in public health advocacy. So I launched an advocacy program for youth within Project Unmasked. And in general, I've had my vision focused on transforming a formerly less emphasized field in school, which is public health, into something that is more accessible and more equitable. Okay, so now before I get into more of the questions, I wanted to talk about how you can get involved in public health advocacy or just advocacy in general. So the first thing that I wanted to discuss is that you should start local. And what I mean by starting local is to narrow down your very starting scope of impact. So what that means is don't look to the New York Times to publish your article first. You want to look to your local magazine or your local news channel. You don't want to already start by reaching out to high profile people or high profile magazines, etc. It's very rare that as a student who doesn't really have who's just starting something, it's very rare that your story is going to be picked up by these large national level news coverage stories or these high profile people. So what you want to do is you want to start local because that's where you have the most impact. So starting in your school, starting in your county, things like that, you want to start making an impact in places where you actually know people. And so reaching out to those you know about a cause that you're passionate about. So this could be like your teachers. This could be your state representative. This could be even your parents or your friends. So just starting in your smaller network, and then that's how you make an impact first. After you make that initial impact, then you can expand your scope of your reach and then move on to more people in more states, even in different countries as well. So starting local is super important. And then the second thing is media recognition. I think sometimes we underestimate how important the media is in influencing public perception. So what I originally did in my own outreach and in my own advocacy was I reached out to or I try to get local media coverage. So like local TV station coverage, local magazine coverage. And this was really what launched my story into more of the public eye. And this can be a tedious process, but it definitely involves a lot of resilience, a lot of outreach on your own, and truly making an impact first, because the stories that are truly newsworthy are the ones where you're doing something to change the community that you're in. So, but yeah, media recognition is invaluable for getting your message out to the world. And once you get those smaller, like local news coverage stories, then you can start expanding into like statewide media or even national media. And then finally is to reach out to people in charge. And I say this very loosely. This doesn't need to be a very high profile person. This just needs to be someone who has some sort of platform. So for me, I reached out to my teachers as one of my first points of contact because they have a significant platform in education. They have a whole classroom. They have an entire group of students that they teach on the regular. So yeah, teachers, this could be community leaders, someone who runs a local organization. This could be someone who runs an organization in a field that you are trying to get into, and just general people who have some form of influence in one way or another. And the reason why you want to do this is because they can really help you a lot. And as a young person who's trying to make a change, make some sort of positive change in society, you already have a very compelling story. You already have an inspirational story. And so it's very likely that they would like to help you out. And once you get the help of other people, that's when you can really launch your initiative into something that's actionable and something that has impact. So you do want to make sure that you're not afraid to reach out for help, because at first you're just one person, you can't do it all. So not being afraid to do that, and then having thick skin in case they say no, that's totally fine. You can just reach out to other people. So yeah, reaching out is a great way to expand your network and to make positive change. And the general thread of science advocacy is to communicate science to others. At least that's one major way that you can make a change, and to promote scientific literacy. So yeah, that's what I've been striving for in my public health advocacy. That's what I have been encouraging others to strive for. And just generally in terms of learning science, you want to remember that you're learning science not for yourself. You may find it interesting, you may find it to be your future career field, you may find it to be the topic that you want to study in college. But in general, the broader purpose behind learning science is to make an impact in the world. So whether that be, if you want to be a doctor, that would be assisting patients in the future. If you want to be a researcher, that would be to contribute something meaningful to the current scientific sphere. So yeah, just keeping that in mind as you approach your various scientific endeavors, that will lead you to the right path. So now I'm open for any questions that you may have. You can write it in the Q&A, or you can let Kevin know. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to my presentation.
All right, so now we're getting started on the Q&A section of the presentation. So I will now look at the Q&A section of the chat. Okay, Stephanie, so to start off with our questions, I know you've talked a lot about different competitions and events. So one attendee is wondering how you manage your time to do all these things. Do you have a strategy or any tips for them?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kevin. Thank you for that. So time management, I think, is something that is absolutely vital to maintaining a good balance in your life. So that could be maintaining a healthy lifestyle or maintaining adequate mental health. So time management, there are a variety of strategies that I use, and these are just the things that work for me. So you don't necessarily have to like copy these or anything, but these are just some ideas that I can pitch to you. So for time management in particular, I have a very detailed calendar that I update very frequently with things that I have to do, events that I have to go to, different meetings that I have, or just in general, my commitments. I even have like chunks of time that I block out on my calendar for working or for relaxing or for spending time with my family. So just having that sort of system to keep you on track. That is one thing that really, really helps me a lot in terms of time management. And then in general, I also have a to-do list for like pretty much every day, where I have things that I need to get done, as well as like weekly tasks that I need to get done. So having that system of organization is really helpful for me. I know some people may not be as like into that sort of like day-by-day planning as I am, and that's totally fine. But I think finding that system that works for you, finding some sort of organization strategy that works for you to keep you on track. Because I remember earlier on in middle school, I would try to just remember all the homework assignments that I have, remember all the meetings and stuff, or like the different involvements that I had, but that wasn't very sustainable. So I like to just write things down. It could just be a quick little planner, or it could be on your phone, just something that keeps you organized and keeps you on track. That would be my best advice for time management.
All right, I think that's a great answer for that question. So next up, we have another question on how do you become motivated to do all these things? Because I personally know that a lot of times these large tests that take a lot of time, I'm unmotivated to do them. So how do you find the time and like passion to do like things like write your book and take part in these events?
Yeah, great question. And I think the overarching motivation that I have is just to is really to create some sort of positive change in society. And so that's basically the entire topic of my talk, whether that be like doing research projects. Well, of course, I'm very interested in these topics as well. But the general framework for doing research should be to create something that is useful to society, create something that adds something new, as well as for advocacy in general. The motivation for that is to make sure that, at least for my public health literacy advocacy, it's to make sure that more people are understanding of these epidemiological concepts. Less people are sort of misled by misinformation. Just in general, promoting a healthier society is my motivation for getting involved in like Project Unmasked and epidemiology unmasked and stuff. And then also just because a lot of the times I am really, really passionate about something. So I have several other interests outside of just like public health and science research. So one thing that I also really enjoyed learning about is just public policy. I think I'm really interested in learning more about like how the world works in terms of different governments and stuff like that. So just it's mostly trying to make that positive change in the world, but also in some other topics, it's just pure fascination, pure passion in that subject.
Yeah, sounds great. So next up, we have a question on the science programs, actually. You mentioned a few earlier, and this particular person wants to ask more about the RSI program.
Yeah, I can definitely elaborate a little bit more about RSI. So in the US, at least, there is a application that you need to submit in around the fall of your junior year. So RSI takes rising seniors, and they in 2021 and 2020, RSI was virtual. So that was the year 2021 was the year that I participated in. So what we do at RSI is we have a research mentor who mentors us on a particular research topic of our interest. Sometimes they assign you a project, but a lot of the times you get to be the one to decide what topic you want to work in. And then you work for 6 weeks on this novel research project under the guidance of your mentor. And at the end of the program, you have a presentation and you have to submit a final written paper. And then that just is like the culmination of your 6 weeks of research. You can go on to continue this relationship with your mentor. You can go on to participate in science fairs. You can go to conferences, try to get your paper published. You can do whatever you want with your project. But I think it's a wonderful experience to network with other students, because some of my closest friends that I've met that I still keep in touch to this day were from RSI. And then we're all going to similar colleges. So these are some of the best friends that you'll meet. So I think that's one aspect of RSI that isn't given as much attention, that should be given more attention, is that social network of people that you meet who are just really, really passionate and really, really inspiring. So yeah, I would encourage anyone who's interested in scientific research to apply to RSI if you're eligible. As for the international student process, I'm not as familiar with, but I know that around 30 international students are admitted every year to RSI as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. So our next question will be, how to find a good mentor for your research?
Great question. So a lot of the times you just have to sort of like, a lot of the times it's luck, but also you can try to get the vibe of the mentor, if that makes sense, just like by having conversations with them, seeing what topics they're interested in, because you're much more likely to mesh better with your mentor if it's on a topic that you're really, really passionate about. So for example, if you're interested in, let's say, regenerative biology, finding a mentor in that particular field who's working on something that is very much your interest, that increases the likelihood that you'll have a successful relationship with your mentor. So having that topic alignment is very important. And then also just also a lot of the times you just want to make sure you reach out to multiple people. You don't want to like stick to one person in terms of your mentor outreach. You want to give yourself many options, and then at the end you can decide which mentorship do you want to pursue. So that's generally my advice for finding a good mentor.
Yeah, that's great advice. Now, building off one of our previous questions about your time management, how would you handle both schoolwork and research at the same time? Like, what would your typical school day look like, and like afterwards, I guess?
Yeah, so I would say that during high school, I was pretty busy, like pretty much every day, even on weekends. I wouldn't advise for everyone to do the same. I think if I was to do high school again, I would definitely give myself much more leeway in the things that I did. But in general, what I did was I tried to get my homework done as soon as possible. So like right after school, I would try to get all the homework out of the way, and because that was like mandatory stuff that I had to get done. And then afterwards, I would work on the things, my other commitments. So like research, extracurriculars, and just having that time blocked out in my day for each thing that I wanted to do really kept me on task. So sometimes I would spend a few hours studying for a competition, or other days I would spend a few hours working on my project. And so just having that routine was really helpful. And keeping that really was the key to keeping me on task. And also giving myself time to recuperate in case I felt really burnt out, or in case I needed a break. I never forced myself to keep working in times that I really needed a break. So that would also be a good piece of advice that I have, is to really know your limits and to not stress yourself out too much, especially in high school. In high school, it should be a time for you to explore your interests and explore your passions, and not necessarily just like burn yourself out too much. So just take it easy in high school. Don't take it too seriously. Yeah.
All right, that sounds great. One more question we have is, what made you decide to go into this field that you're studying, like epidemiology? What stands out about it?
Yeah, so in college, I'm actually going to be studying molecular and cellular biology as my concentration. And then I'm also considering doing a secondary, which is also known as sort of a minor, in government. And the reason why I went down this path was because through Science Olympiad, which was a major competition that I spent a lot of time in high school, I was able to do these events that were focused on various fields in biology. So there was one event that I did on epidemiology. There was another event that I did that was more biochemistry, molecular biology focused. And I really, really like these events. But yeah, I got interested in epidemiology just through that, by exploring that. And then through molecular biology, I also found my interest in that. But I'd say that giving yourself the opportunity to explore different fields. So besides biology events, I also explored different other fields like physics events. I also did some chemistry events here and there. And so just getting the opportunity to learn about different fields, learn about niche subjects in each field, gave me insight on what field I want to study in college, what fields I want to pursue as a career. And my minor in government, it's definitely something that I started to get more involved in since COVID, and since my advocacy in public health. And so public health advocacy has given me opportunities to get involved in like public service, get in touch with government officials. And so that's what made me realize, okay, this is also very interesting and is potentially something that I want to study in college as well. So I would say in high school, finding different clubs, different organizations that give you the opportunity to explore different fields is a great way to find what you're interested in studying in college.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm sure many people are also wondering about what you've actually done in high school as just school, not outside anything. So what are some APs you recommend taking for the med field or the path that you're taking?
So for pre-med in particular, I took quite a few APs in high school, but I think some of the most useful ones that I took were AP Calculus BC. This one is good because it sort of covers the first and second course. So Calc 1 and Calc 2 is covered in Calc BC. And so it's pretty challenging, but I think it's very rewarding. I also really enjoyed AP Biology, of course, because I'm very much bio-oriented. I also really liked AP Chem. AP Chem also prepares you very well for college chemistry classes. So that's also a good one to do. As for some of the more, AP Computer Science is also very useful as well, because a lot of the times research nowadays is very data science oriented, coding oriented. So having that knowledge of how to code is super helpful just from my experience in research as well. Those are more of the STEM ones. In the more humanities side, I really liked AP Lang. I really liked AP Lang because it's a very good class for you to learn writing strategies, argumentative writing, just general expository writing. And expository writing is a class that lots of colleges want introductory or like freshman students to take. So having built up a solid foundation through AP Lang is really helpful in my opinion. So those would be my suggestions for AP classes.
Yeah, I'll definitely take it into consideration. So I believe we have time for a few more questions. So one more is about your book, actually. So when you're writing this book, how long did it take, and did it come with any obstacles, like any setbacks, writer's block?
Wonderful question. And I would love to talk about this because writing my book was a huge commitment for me, and it was probably one of the most rewarding parts of my high school career. So I started right around when COVID started, so late March 2020, and then I got it published in late June. So about a few months. And these few months, it seems kind of crazy to write a book in a few months, but what I did was those were also the months that had like online school, so school was not too much of an issue for me. So I had a lot of time to dedicate to my book. And so once I had that idea to write an introductory textbook, I really put myself to that goal. I worked on it for many hours a day. And then after writing the draft, I tried to reach out to people who could proofread my book, and then eventually explore different publishing options. I would say it was definitely challenging. Writing a book is not easy. Figuring out how to orient the different chapters, what content to include in each chapter, making sure I'm not leaving out any important content. And then the way I structured my book was in the form of an outbreak investigation, where readers were able to sort of step in the shoes of an epidemiologist studying an outbreak investigation and learn about those concepts along the way. So that was an approach that took some time to figure out and some time to really implement in the form of a book. And then also just proofreading the book a bunch of times. Like, my book isn't short, it's about like 100 or so pages. So reading it over and over again, and then doing outreach, and oftentimes not getting responses was pretty difficult to swallow. But in the end, I think it worked out amazing because I ended up getting a lot of public interest in the book, and seeing that public interest was really what motivated me to start Project Unmasked, because I was like, okay, well, there are definitely other ways for me to get involved in public health advocacy as well. So yeah, that was pretty much the process of writing the book. And in the end, I think having a clear reason for why you want to write a book is the thing that carried me through the process, because having that clear motivation is key to continued motivation. You don't want to just write a book for the purposes of writing a book, because a lot of the times you kind of just let it like sit there, and then you come back the next day and you feel like, oh, I don't really feel like doing this. But having that clear motivation as to why you're doing this and when you want to get it done is super important. At least for me, it was very important.
Yeah, of course. So building off of that, actually, what made you decide that the book was like the right way to make an impact in the community? Like that the book was just like the best way to do it?
Yeah, great question as well. So usually when I was learning epidemiology in high school for Science Olympiad, I really enjoyed reading a textbook as opposed to just going through like different websites. And so books are just very solid, contained places to find information. And usually books are more reputable than the internet. So I wanted it to be somewhere that people could, like a contained place for people to go to learn this material all at once. And it was difficult for me at the time of learning epidemiology to find an introductory epidemiology book like that. And so that was what made me motivated to write a book, because normally books are also very accessible. So for example, my book is now available in local libraries here in Texas. So a lot of the time students would like to read textbooks like either in their classrooms or just check them out and take them home. So they're pretty equitable in terms of information distribution, as opposed to online. It can be difficult to find certain websites. It can involve a lot of searching, and a lot of the times you need to think about, is this information reputable or not? So a book was just that better, more equitable way of disseminating information. And my book would really fill that void of the lack of introductory, truly accessible epidemiology information.
All right, yeah. So that's about all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for speaking. It was really insightful for me, and I'm sure for the audience as well. Now we're going to be moving on to the raffle section of our presentation. So on screen, we have our raffle QR code, which you can scan, and we will give you a few minutes to do that. All right, so that's it for a raffle. Be sure to stick around to the closing ceremony to check if you won anything. And our next seminar will be to grow the green circle of sustainability by the next year's sustainability team. So be sure to stick around for that. And thank you all for coming today, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Be sure to thank Stephanie for sharing your presentation. It was fantastic. And once again, thank you all for coming, and have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll now be moving into a short break time slide before our next presentation.
All right, welcome back, everyone. My name is Matthew Zhao, and I'm a member of the MYE Youth Leadership Committee team. Welcome to the third event of the IRM Conference, Grow the Green Circle of Sustainability. The IRM Conference is hosted by the Michigan Youth Empowerment Foundation, a 501c3 dedicated to promoting STEM education and supporting K-12 students so they can thrive in the new technological world. You can check out our other seminars at myebeat.com/IRM event and our website at myebeat.com. Additionally, we would like to give a quick shout out to all our partners and sponsors, for none of this would be possible without their help. Their work has truly allowed us to this conference to prosper and make even greater impacts on the world. With that said, we're very honored to host this seminar with the Next Tier Sustainability team as our guest. Today, we're going to be exploring social and environmental sustainability. If you have any questions for the team while they're speaking, feel free to add them in the Q&A function here on Zoom. Remember to stay until the end of the seminar to enter a raffle while we're hosting. Let me get started by giving a brief introduction of our guest speaker. Nextier Automotive is the global leading motion control technology company accelerating mobility to be safe, green, and exciting. Headquartered in Auburn Hills, Michigan, in the United States, the company has a global footprint located across 5 continents, serving more than 60 customers around the world. Nextier Automotive is committed to being a responsible corporate citizen and making a positive impact, embracing sustainability, making tomorrow better than today. The company was recognized by Newsweek on the 2022 list as America's most responsible company for the 3rd year consecutively. Nextier Sustainability will continue this stewardship for the good of the planet, community, and future through longstanding work along the 5 key focus areas of their sustainability framework. To bring the team on stage, let's launch the Green Rocket, a project created by an MYE student who's also part of the Nextier Sustainability team's family. So now, in case you were wondering what 4321 means, it represents the number of decades of green life for our speakers from the Nextier Sustainability team. Virginia, Jonas, and Alice are all professionals with multidisciplinary subject matter expertise in sustainability, legal, risk management, business strategy, and so on. Woo-Hun Chen is working his internship with Nextier Sustainability and is the winner of the Nextier 2022 scholarship. As a STEM youth leader, Woo-Hun got his bachelor's degree at Tsinghua University with the degree in environmental engineering and business administration. He then went to University of Michigan to get his master's in environment and sustainability, and also went to Carnegie Mellon University for his master's of information systems management. Also part of the Nextier Green family, Elizabeth Garner is also a STEM youth leader. She's the 3rd year chief science officer and the co-founder of the STEM club at Novell High School. She's the first year member at the Great Lakes Bay Region Leadership Council and recently attended the International STEM Ecosystem Convention. Now, let's learn more about Nextier from their vision video.
Relentlessly innovating for over 100 years. We accelerate mobility,
honoring our heritage and creating our future.
We move people through smarter technology that enables mobility to be
safe by advancing the driving experience.
Green, creating a cleaner future through sustainable manufacturing and designing for a zero-emission world.
Exciting, where complex systems simplify lives and people are connected in ways we once dreamed of.
We work to make tomorrow better than today, every single day.
To expand possibilities.
Relentlessly innovating.
All right, thanks for the patience and the technical hiccup. So yes, that's who we are, the global leading motion control technology company, accelerating mobility to be safe, green, and exciting. Speaking of the vision, let's share a moment of inspiration. All of us can learn from the inspiring role models around us. Today, our next year's sustainability team would like to share and embark inspiring thoughts to grow our green circle of sustainability. So to start, let's share our inspiring.
At Next Year, we strive to be the global leading motion control technology company, accelerating mobility to be safe, green, and exciting. And sustainability is a key factor in achieving this vision and making tomorrow better than today. We're committed to innovation and value creation that drive a more sustainable future. Our 5 focus areas ensure that we are integrating a sustainability mindset into our global business activities and culture. Around the world, our One Next Year culture encourages all employees to embrace sustainability. We are all empowered with the freedom to go beyond our defined scope of work to explore, understand, suggest, and continue to improve how we make tomorrow better than today.
So start with the why. Make tomorrow better than today. It's exactly the why behind our next year's sustainability vision. As you heard from many of the sustainability leaders have encoded, we did not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. That is a sense of obligation and responsibility. Speaking of the future, let's bring to the stage of our next year's sustainability team's next generation, Elizabeth from our next year's sustainability family.
So what is sustainability? Sustainability means meeting our own needs without compromising the ability of our future generations to meeting their own needs.
The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015, provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and into the future. As we can see, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals are an urgent call for action by all countries in a global partnership. So our presentation today will focus on a few SDGs, such as number 6, gender equality, number 7, affordable and clean energy, and number 13, climate action. First, let's start with climate change and energy section. Muhan, please.
Thank you, Alice. As we can see, sustainability is a really big framework. Let's start from one of the hottest topics, climate change, and discuss how it is related to energy as well as how we can help. So among the 5 panelists here, 3 of us are in Michigan. So I want to ask, Alice, you're in China. Did you experience a very hot summer this year?
Yes, of course. It's like 35 Celsius degrees these days. So it's quite hot.
So what about you, Eunice? Is it hot this summer in Europe?
Yeah, Muhan, we can even beat Alice. We had recently 40 degrees here in Paris. That's also Celsius. We're using in France, but it translates to about 104 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow, yeah, well, that's really hot. So, Eunice, could you please introduce why we keep focusing on carbon whenever we talk about climate change and global warming?
Sure, thanks. And to set the stage for any discussion on energy and its correlation with climate action, whether that is with our senior management in the company or stakeholders inside or outside of Next Year, we like to use a very simplified model that actually speaks to most audiences. And that is the carbon bath tube, as you can see it on this slide. It's intended to visualize how too much carbon, or precisely carbon dioxide or CO2, which is emitted when, for example, you're burning fossil fuel, will lead to disaster. So in this very sophisticated model, the bath tube represents our planet's atmosphere, and the water is the CO2. So there are usually 1 or 2 people in the audiences that have already encountered the following effect. With bath tube's capacity being limited, if too much water flows into the bath tube without letting any of the water flow out via the drains, the water will eventually reach the brim, and if it keeps flowing, it will lead to a personal disaster. The situation is actually not so much different from too much CO2 in the atmosphere, except that the disaster really concerns all of us. More and more CO2 in the atmosphere means more and more re-radiation of the sun's energy in the atmosphere and on the Earth's surface. This causes temperatures to increase, which causes ice to melt, rising sea levels, and depending on where you are, you have more or less rain, which means flood or other damaging weather conditions, which are storms, hurricanes, tornadoes, and less land, less food, and the spiral continues. The commonly accepted maximum increase of the temperature that we can handle without it resulting in a disaster is somewhere between 1.5 and well below 2 degrees Celsius. And for those who don't know it by heart, like me, that translates to 2.7 and 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit. So to illustrate the whole thing, on the left, you can see the climate change, the temperature change over time, as well as the tipping points for disaster I mentioned before. It shows the average temperature in the world from 1850, in other words, the pre-industrial period, until 2018. And you can see we reach, well, the 1.5 degrees already. If we continue on the same run rate, and we would project that in 2100, we would reach actually even further outer rim of 5 degrees Celsius, which is 9 degrees Fahrenheit. On the right, you can further see the development in geographical terms. Note that the implications are not limited to regions where we are traditionally thinking of very hot weather, like Africa or India, but we can see it around the globe, including the US, and especially concerning the polar regions. So we should also keep in mind that even if we were to cut CO2 immediately, the effect would not stop instantly. But there is a climate breaking distance. It's like with a heavy truck on a highway, if that slams into the brakes, that usually travels still quite some way. So in order to avoid the whole thing, what actions can we take to address that? And in this context, in many parts of the world, including Europe, we have seen a lot of young people giving up on their right to education, and instead to go on weekly strikes on Fridays to urge their governments to take more climate action, which is a clear statement of the next generation's priorities. And I'm perfectly aware that you, the young talents of the world, not only hold your governments accountable, but you rightly ask all stakeholders, individually or collectively, about their contributions to battle climate change. At Next Year, we consider ourselves a responsible corporate citizen. And in the following, my esteemed colleagues Muhan and Virginia will share with you a couple of examples of our industry's priorities when it comes to transitioning our business for a lower carbon emission environment. So Muhan, can you take it from here?
Sure, thank you, Yunus. So we've seen how global temperature has risen. It has caused many extreme weather events and vast extinction. So what should we do? When we consider climate action, energy is often a very important one. Today, fossil fuels, which mainly include coal, oil, and natural gas, still accounts for about 80% of global energy consumption. And we know burning those will emit carbon. In 2021, if we just look at global increase in carbon emissions, we see that electricity and heat production accounted for 46%. And interestingly, with only 5% of global population, the US consumes about 15% of global energy, which means we can further improve our energy efficiency. Since energy is a major driver of carbon emissions, we should try to save energy and use greener energies. This is also a reason why electric vehicles has been so popular in recent years. Compared to traditional internal combustion engine vehicles or ICE, EVs do not have any direct emissions from their tailpipe. It is also more efficient in energy usage, which means with the same amount of energy, EVs can travel much farther. Because of this, even if we include the emissions from power plants, electric vehicles still have less emissions. So speaking of vehicles, Virginia, could you share something about the trends in automotive industry?
Sure. Thank you, Jonas and Muhan, for sharing your insights on climate and energy topics. So continue to build upon your comments. Quoting the United Nations Secretary General, as the current events make all too clear, our continual reliance on fossil fuels makes the global economy and energy security vulnerable to geopolitical shocks and crises. And also, as you can see from a paper by Resilience, applying the research framework from the University of Cambridge, there are multiple climate scenarios and their corresponding carbon reduction roadmaps. So specifically, for example, a 1.5 Celsius degree scenario corresponds and aligns with the Paris Agreement aspirational goals. Looking to the right-hand side, it provides an overview of the Science-Based Target Initiative for the automotive industry. While many of the OEMs or the car manufacturers publish their reduction goals aligned with the most ambitious 1.5 Celsius degree scenario. For example, you may have seen it from the car manufacturing company's website, BMW, Stellantis, General Motors, Ford, and counting. They are accelerating their actions on electrification to support their climate goals. Speaking of electrification, we recognize it is the need to embrace sustainability in the wave of arising and elevating climate aspirations across the globe, aiming to transition to a low carbon or lower carbon economy. Admittedly, we are a relatively smaller scale company, but thanks to our global leading motion control technology, all of our products, they are well aligned with the automotive megatrends. Most importantly, the electrification, which is a key megatrend intersecting with the climate actions driven by various constituents. Here's another view of electrification. All of our product lines, they offer electric vehicle applications of EV, as well as represented on major battery EVs truck launches from the time between early to mid 2020s. So that brings us the important question as we now identify energy and climate, they are so closely related. What can we do to improve the energy efficiency? Quoting again the United Nations Secretary General's message, a prompt, well-managed transition to renewables is the only pathway to energy security, universal access, and the green jobs that our world needs. Acknowledging the energy efficiency and renewables are key enablers to our climate actions, our sustainability team continue to explore renewable energy options. For example, in late 2021, our Mexico operation executed a solar or renewable energy agreement, meeting approximately 80% of our energy consumption of the Mexico operation, with an annualized saving exceeding $1 million. Other sites across the globe, such as our Poland, China, and United States operations, are also exploring clean energy options, balancing their business needs and their unique regional circumstances. Next, Elizabeth from our Next Year Sustainability family will provide us real-life examples, leveraging her STEM knowledge.
So my big thing is, how can we reduce power usage at our house? So my dad came home one day and he challenged me to reduce our power usage by 50%. Now, when I first heard that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's going to be crazy. I don't think I can do that. But recently, when our hot water heater went out, my dad and I decided to do some research. So we found out that 25% of the energy is used to heat water. So we converted to an on-demand hot water heater. Also, 21% of the energy is used for heating and cooling. So we installed a programmable thermostat. Also, incandescent lighting is very inefficient. I found that 80% of the electricity is actually going to the heat and not the lighting. And so we converted to LED lights. Lastly, I don't know if you can see this very well, but these USB chargers use power when they're not even being used. So we can go to solar charging USB devices or even convert to a power strip and turn off the power strip when we're not using appliances. My household reduced our energy usage by 71.4% from May 2021 to May 2022. And this slide is showing my actual energy bill. So as you can see on the slide, we are 77.5% better than an efficient household. And then on the bottom picture, it shows when we started working on our reduceage. So around November, you can see that we had a major drop. Again, in May 2021, we were using 725 kilowatts. And then in May 2022, we were only using 207 kilowatts. So another thing we can do is, how can I reduce fuel usage? So I just started driving, and again, prices of gas are very high. So how can we reduce our fuel usage? Well, we can stop making extra trips to the store for single items. So I use Alexa to help plan out my grocery list and meal planning for the week. Also, I found that cars are 23% less fuel efficient at 75 miles an hour. So just by lowering our speed by a few miles per hour, we can reduce our fuel usage. And lastly, if we're all going to the same place, why don't we carpool? So carpooling to practices and events are a great idea. So what are the main things in this section? Well, for our call to action, we need to reduce energy, use LED light bulbs, maybe install a programmable thermostat, and shut off things when you're not using them. Now we covered climate and energy topics. Let's pass it on to Alice to talk about other aspects of sustainability.
Alice, we know that you are silently and quietly expressing what are the other aspects. If you don't mind sharing with us, that would be great.
Yeah, okay, so let's share some stories related to people and social aspects in sustainability framework. So besides climate and energy, there are other topics in the UN SDGs, for example, gender equality and quality education. And we're going to provide a few examples of how our sustainability efforts contributed to support relevant goals. So first of all, I would like to share examples about how we value gender equality. To promote gender equality, we established the Next Tier Women's Club, NWC, with the mission to promote personal and professional development of women at Next Tier through leadership, education, networking, and mentoring opportunities, as well as bringing awareness to Next Tier leadership and the larger community. Besides, we also celebrate International Women's Day multiple years in a row to recognize accomplishments and contributions women make to our company and to the world. So let me share the video of our 2022 International Women's Day celebration.
International Women's Day 2022. Imagine a gender-equal world, a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. A world that's diverse, equitable, and inclusive. A world where difference is valued and celebrated. Together, we can forge women's equality. Collectively, we can all break the bias. Celebrate women's achievement. Raise awareness against bias. Take action for.
So, as a global citizen, we value the diversity, equity, and inclusion and make efforts to maintain a workplace that people want to be part of each day. We provide opportunities for employees to learn and grow and create a safe, diverse, equal, and inclusive workplace, embracing our differences to constructively develop our collective intelligence. At Next Year, we believe diversity drives innovation. We are committed to building a culture where difference is essential and valued, including recognizing our past and focusing on excellence. And through these D&I practices, we hope to provide more opportunities to make people think differently, to tighten our connection, and to strengthen our One Next Year culture. So, Eunice, do you have something to share from a very diverse division since you are located in Europe?
Right. As you said, Alice, just as in this audience, people working at Next Year come from all over the planet. They all have their individual cultures, backgrounds, and beliefs. So as you said, naturally, diversity and inclusion plays a super important role in our company. As you also said, I am working in a particularly diverse geographical division, which is Europe, Middle East, Africa, and South America. So as you can see, we're spanning 3 continents. It's 7 countries. Each of them have their own language, history, and norms. So while we highly value the many different perspectives and approaches on the way of doing things that people bring with them, we also keep discovering all the things we actually have in common. And I think one of the good examples you have on your slide here is the Great Place to Work initiative. At the beginning, I thought, okay, well, workplace is very much influenced by the very local culture and location where you're sitting, right? But when we actually went through this initiative, we discovered that building, your office building, the free snacks, all the other swag, has actually little to do with what people consider a truly great place to work. And what they told us, what is great about a place to work, is actually quite universal. And they described words like credibility, respect, and fairness, which you can all summarize as trust. There were other pillars like pride and camaraderie. And this is the very environment we try to create and maintain also at Next Year. And we are very proud of the trust that our friends and colleagues here at Next Year have in each other and also their management. And so I can confirm to you that all the places I meant before in the division are certified a great place to work.
Thank you, Eunice. So besides our internal initiatives, we also make efforts contributing to our society. So Next Year takes great pride in our longstanding commitment to local communities. We've given back for more than 110 years. Next Year's CSR program is called Next Year Cares, addressing community investments, volunteering, memberships, and focus areas for our contributions. We focus on proactive community involvement, careers and education, STEM education, and strengthening neighborhoods. So besides company level, I'm also actually curious about what we could do from individual level. So now let's hear from Elizabeth again about her personal experience and the stories in terms of humanity. Please.
So my personal community sustainability. So my high school requires 100 service hours to graduate, and I love helping out in my community. Some things that I've done are help at the soup kitchen by making meals. I've helped make over 3,000 meals. I also loved working at Habitat for Humanity by helping locals to rebuild their homes, and working at Greek Festival, where I got to learn about different traditions and cultures. So what is our call to action for this section? Well, we want to get out and help our community. Businesses can have regular community outreach days, get to know and respect different cultures, and meet new people.
Okay, so now we've learned some knowledge of humanity from the sustainability perspective, climate change and energy. Let's go back to our big theme today, STEM. Muhan, do you know how sustainability could link to the STEM, or how STEM could help the development of sustainability?
Yeah, I believe sustainability needs to be accompanied by science and technology. STEM encompasses science, technology, engineering, and math education. But more importantly, it emphasizes an interdisciplinary approach in education. I myself have been a STEM student since undergrad, and such background really helps me better understand sustainability with cross-functional collaboration, such as how technologies can be accepted by the market or by the society through effective communication. That being said, I didn't have any idea about STEM back in high school. So Elizabeth, could you share some of your experience on STEM?
Of course, I love to. My first experience with STEM was when I was 9. I love the hands-on activities that we could do, and now I'm a chief science officer at my high school. As a chief science officer, our mission is to spread STEM awareness through our school and community. Also, I have had so many opportunities to meet with real STEM professionals throughout my 3 years. This year at my high school, I even started a STEM club. I love being part of the STEM community.
Okay, thank you, Mohan and Elizabeth, for sharing your STEM experience. Next, we would like to close today's session with a question: what will the future look like? Is it the red view to the left or the green future to the right? With that, our youth leadership team want to challenge you to rethink your day. Mohan, please go ahead.
Yeah, today we shared several sustainability topics with you, from concepts and technologies to sustainable actions by next year as a company and by each of us as individuals. We would like to challenge you to rethink your day. These small questions and actions can lead to big impacts. Do you turn off appliances when they are not in use? How much are you paying for gas and electricity? And do you drive at a reasonable speed? In addition, going back to that USB charger example shared by Elizabeth earlier, do you have any further insights on this, Elizabeth?
So as Muhan said, and as I mentioned earlier, these USB devices use power when they're not even being used. So I thought of a challenge for everyone. So the average power strip uses about 1 kilowatt 560 watts. So about 1 kilowatt is equal to 1 pound of CO2. So if we did 6.5 pounds of CO2 times about 1,500 people, that's about 10,000 pounds of CO2 reduction. So just by that little thing of unplugging this little USB, we can save over 10,000 pounds of CO2 in the world. So what is a real life example to this? Well, 12,500 miles driven in a traditional car would be saved. And we can even save the CO2 emission for going around the world a half.
Thank you again, our inspiring youth leadership team, for sharing your experience and insights. We are going to conclude today's presentation with a next-gen Green Talents 3D Tinkercad project, which with the knowledge learned from NYE's STEM courses. Yes, it's a green rocket, but it does not have to be rocket science for all of us to take action to grow the green circle of sustainability. A sustainable future is on you, our next generation green team members. With that, we thank each and every one of you for your participation today. I am inviting our 4-3-2-1 green team back to the stage and turn it back to Matthew for Q&A sections. Matthew, please.
Thank you so much for all the information today. We really had a lot of call to actions, and I think personally, I have a lot of things I know I can do to help reduce the emission in my house now. And with that, we're going to wrap this up and go to the Q&A section. Just as a reminder to everyone, if you have any questions that you have for the next year sustainability team, make sure you put them in the Q&A box. And I actually got a few questions already. So the first question was, next year sustainability, you talk a lot about growing the green circle of sustainability, but what does that mean personally to you?
Sure, I think I can take that question. Thank you so much, Matthew. So as beginning of our journey, Jonas and I are part of this let's say, inner circle, jointly collaborating in next year's sustainability initiative. So working in many others in this past year, we're so proud that we see the evidence of the ripple effect. So meaning that is coming across the organization from a smaller circle to a bigger and bigger circle. And from that, and second point I'm trying to say is also, we are so glad to see, let's say, this green younger team talents, and especially, let's say, extended family members are also joining the effort for leaders such as Elizabeth. Not only that she's learning her STEM programs and being the chief science officer at school, she's also working on exciting house projects and telling us so much information, such as the USB. I did not even know about that before we have this panel discussion today. And then also, we are very happy to attract more and more talents to join this to serve as the green ambassadors for the sustainability efforts. We even, by the way, attracted a green poster family cat. And I'm not going to disclose the owner, who that is. So another point I'm trying to make is like communication is key. So we have a 3-tier sustainability governance structure in place at next year, which is well aligned with the thought leadership, such as cultural organizations, enterprise risk management, and environmental, social, and governance, which AKA as ESG. So from the top level at the board of directors, and then the middle layer or overarching layer at the C-suite senior management steering committee, and then also our cross-functional work team across the globe, keeping to know who your audience is, that is absolutely imperative for people management. So even today, thinking of who our audience are, including, like, say, young talents like yourself. So during our content development and brainstorming sections, we survey the youth team to say, well, let's provide some recommendation. What are the high school kids or what are the young professionals they would like to hear? And so that's why I think, let's say, growing that green circle, it will also need to keep in mind the communication is the key. So last but not the least, and as Elizabeth highlighted a couple of times in her call for action, small actions make big impact and goes a long way. So that's exactly what we mean by grow the green circle, to amplify our efforts and impacts to the globe and to our environment. So hopefully that addresses that question.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that answered the question beautifully. That really showed us next year's commitment and their mission statement for sustainability, and gave us kind of a little bit of the inner workings of next year and just how the company functions. So great, thank you so much. I suspect this next one might be from a younger generation because the question's for Muhan and Elizabeth. And it's, as a STEM youth leader, what are your career visions?
Muhan, would you like
Yeah,
to go?
sure. Yeah, sure. I can take this one. So I'm still at the early stage of my career development, but I can surely share some insights. One of the most important one is, I think, interdisciplinary knowledge and skills are very important. As you have seen, sustainability itself encompasses a wide range of topics, but from my experience, you will always experience and learn something new when you actually start working in this field. For example, I work extensively with the life cycle assessment team. To back up here, life cycle assessment is to evaluate how much carbon is emitted from a product along its entire life cycle, from material manufacturing all the way to end of life or cradle to grave. So when we learn that in school, we only focus on technical side, like what database we use, like how to build a model. But in real business setting, it's a different story. We need to consider how much is requested from the customers and how to collaborate with other internal teams like engineers, operations, purchasing to get all the data we need. So it's about science, but it's also about people. So that's also why I think this Inspiring Role Model Conference is such a valuable experience for you. Role model is someone we can learn from. So in the case of sustainability, I'm sure you can learn almost everything in terms of knowledge from the internet, but hands-on experience is what's most valuable and most important in real life. So that's my insights. Elizabeth, I would like to hear more from you if you have anything to share.
So quickly, so the question was, what is my career vision? So my career vision is probably something in the medical field. I love helping people and I love getting to know people, like how next year is a great place to work. I want to work with great people and I want to learn more about people. So.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of insight to your career goals and what you hope to achieve. I saw that there's a question in the Q&A section that actually ties very well into this. And it's, are there any opportunities that next year can offer for high schoolers or even middle schoolers, internships or training sessions? I like to say that Muhan is actually an intern right now. And there are many opportunities possible for what next year has to offer. I think Muhan maybe can talk a little bit on that, about how the internship is, what it is, because it appears that next year is offering a lot of possibilities and opportunities for high schoolers.
Yes, definitely. I would say next year offers very flexible opportunities for internship. For example, myself is a data analyst intern focusing on sustainability. So this role itself is a very interdisciplinary role. So it is not very often seen in other companies. I don't often see this kind of position from other companies. So definitely it's possible. And if anyone would like to add on that, it would be perfect.
Yeah, so I will give it a try. So I know that, like say, as a matter of fact, we actually partner with a lot of the local community and high schools in promoting, like say, the awareness of sustainability. For example, I know our sustainability team has gone to Elizabeth's high school, and Elizabeth, please feel free to chime in. And additionally, whoever asked that question in the audience, I want to know you. I want to, continue to grow our green circle of sustainability. So that's my sales pitch there.
So I'm just going to add one thing. So it's actually really cool for one of my chief science officer projects that I do every year. I had next year actually come out to my high school and they actually talked about like what they do, what the main, like their mission and sustainability, and the high schools learned a lot and some are even maybe interning for next year this summer. So.
Yeah, you heard it. If you're interested in next year's sustainability, next year can accommodate to all your professions, your degrees in high school and your interests. So reach out, feel free to reach out and see if there are any opportunities. Yeah, so I think we have one question left that we have time for, and that's, what are your sustainability stories with regards to like people or like social sustainability?
So I think I can first go into this question. So the first actually point in my mind is about employee care. I'd like to share my experience that Next Year makes efforts to create, as we described, a safe, diverse, eco, and inclusive workplace for employees. So actually, I was a new hire during the Shanghai lockdown due to the pandemic this spring. So before I joined the Next Year team, I already actually received caring thoughts from our sustainability teammates. And I know some of our employees and their families, they located in Shanghai. All of us received food and caring also, and also the messages sent from the company. And we also like communicated regularly online to keep people connected during the almost 3 months work from home. So this actually makes me like have the sense of belongings under the One Next Year global roof. Though I'm isolated at home, but I didn't feel alone. And I also realized that Next Year values and cares people under our One Next Year culture, which is closely linked to sustainability, like what I said, people and society perspective. So I feel very proud of being part of this company actually, and I think I will continue to do what I believe to like make tomorrow better. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Yep, thank you so much for your answer, Alex. And we just got back with about the internships and high school opportunities. If you would like an opportunity, you can email Next Year at nextyear.sustainability@nextyear.com. So that's the email if you'd like to learn more about opportunities. It's nextyear.sustainability@nextyear.com. So that's the email if you'd like to contact for any opportunities about internships. You're a high schooler or of any age, if you want to learn about more, that's where you can email for more information. So with that, that concludes our Q&A section. Thank you so much for all the information that you were able to give us. And that's all we have for today. So make sure you stick around for the raffle that we're hosting to win cool prizes like mini fridges. And the information of the QR code and the link and how to apply will pop up in just a second. And just take 2 to 3 minutes to really fill that in so you can be eligible to be able to receive the prizes. And yeah, we'll come back in about 2 to 3 minutes. All right, that's all we have for the raffle. Thank you so much for staying. Make sure to stick around until the closing ceremony today to see if you're lucky enough to win a prize. And our next seminar will be on innovation and me, featuring Michael Wang. So be sure to stick around for that. Additionally, you can please thank the Next Year Sustainability team for the presentation today, and we're truly blessed to have them on as speakers today. Thank you all for coming today, and don't miss the next session, Innovation and Me, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy the break.
right, hello everyone. My name is Jessica Zane, and I am a mentor of Michigan Youth Empowerment Foundation's Youth Leadership Committee. We are excited to welcome everyone to our fourth event of today, Innovation and Me. The Inspiring Role Models Virtual Conference, or IRM, is hosted by Michigan Youth Empowerment Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to promoting STEM education and supporting K-12 students so they can thrive in the new technological world. You can check out our other seminars and events at myebeat.com/IRM event and our website at myebeat.com. Finally, we would like to give a quick shout out to our partners and sponsors, as their work has allowed this conference to prosper and make an even greater impact on the world. Now, back to our event. We are very honored to host this seminar with Michael Wang as our guest. Today, we're going to be exploring computer science and innovation in STEM as Michael shares his experiences as a startup founder. If you have any questions while we speak, feel free to send them to the Q&A function here on Zoom or on YouTube. Remember to stay until the end of the seminar to enter our raffle. Let's get started by giving a brief introduction to our guest speaker. Michael Jialiang Wang is the founder and former CEO of QTech Cayman, a publicly traded artificial intelligence and big data technologies-based mobile internet company worth $20 million. QTech won the Mobile Innovation Award at the GSMA Global Mobile Award in 2009 and was awarded Top 10 Most Innovative Companies in China by Fast Company. His visionary product, TouchPal Smart Input, offered an alternative input method for mobile devices powered by AI. TouchPal was named part of Google Play's Best Apps of 2015 and would later become globally featured by Google Play in 2017. Michael earned his master's and bachelor's degree in science and electronic engineering from Shanghai Jiaotong University in 2005 and 2000, respectively. In 2012, Michael spoke at the World Economic Forum about the importance of innovation in entrepreneurship. And with that, it is our honor to welcome Michael with his talk, Innovation and Me.
All right. Thank you, Jessica. So, hi, everyone. I'm Michael, and very glad to talk to you. Let me first quickly share my slides. All right. Okay. Yeah, so first, let me briefly introduce myself. I started programming when I was 7 years old, and I majored in electronic engineering, got my bachelor's and master's degree in Shanghai Jiaotong University. And then I became a program manager at Microsoft. And after that, I co-founded QTech in 2008, and the company got IPO in New York Stock Exchange in 2018. And now I'm currently an angel investor, mainly in SaaS, in mobile games, and Web3. So my company is developing mobile apps and games, and we have only over 100 million daily active users worldwide. And our key products include touchpad keyboards and mobile games and reading novels. So if you want to, if you're interested in playing mobile games or reading novels, probably you may have used our products. So today, my topic is about innovation. And I'm not going to talk about the principles or, the theory of innovation. I guess this is probably something that you already know. So I think that I'm going to just share with you some of my stories and then my learnings about innovation. So this is a photo of my, like when I was a kid. my father was the first generation programmer in China. So I was able to play with computer since I was a kid. And as you can see, this is a really old type of computer. I started with Microsoft DOS command lines. There was no, graphics or mouse. And then I started programming with assembly and BASIC. And I learned a lot of computer, like the computer skills by myself, including computer network, encryption and decryption, and cracking and hacking skills. Just like I started to learn computer science in my primary school. And it is interesting that my English was also improved a lot in this process, because at that time, a lot of computer books and articles were in English. So I had to learn English at the same time by myself, right? So there was no English games at that time, but I found the world of computer was way much interesting than the games nowadays. And in my middle school, I even hacked into the computer network in my school. Fortunately, I wasn't put in jail, but I was punished to stand in the corner for a whole day. So looking back, it seems that this experience planted the seed of innovation in my life later. I didn't learn computer or programming because it's useful or it's required. I learned it because I'm interested in it. And because of this interest, I'm not only learning all by myself, but also creating my own programs and feeling proud of myself. So this is kind of positive feedback to me. And no one told me what to do or how to do. And it's all self-motivated. So this actually leads to my first understanding about innovation. Innovation is about interest. You can't innovate because it's good, it's cool, or it's required, or it's necessary, right? Or it's the right thing to do. No, you can only innovate because you love it, you enjoy it, and you're really passionate about it. So this is why we are so important to find what we are really passionate about. And this is a picture in my college life. I studied electronic engineering in Shanghai Jiaotong University, one of the top engineering college in China. In my fourth year, I took part in a student exchange program called Stanford Asia Technology Initiative. It was a program that Stanford sent several selected students to China and team up with the students from Fudan and Jiaotong University to work on some startup projects. And this is a photo of my team. And later they all became my lifetime friends. And as you see that the two students in the middle are from Stanford. One of them joined Google when it has only 300 staff. And then the other joined Amazon in its early stage and designed its recommendation algorithm. And the one on the left was from Fudan, and he's now the general manager of Ctrip, the Booking.com in China. So frankly, it was my first time to know the word startup by then. And during that 4-month program, I learned a lot about the legendary startup stories in the Silicon Valley, which inspired me a lot later. And then I worked with my team on a real startup project. I think the startup is so cool because you can bring up with a lot of new ideas and then try to make them happen. So when I graduated from the university, I got offers from Goldman Sachs, from Boston Consulting Group, and from Microsoft at the same time. And actually the package of the investment bank and the consulting firm is much higher than Microsoft. But I chose Microsoft because I think it's helpful to my plan to start up a business. Because I could find a technical partner, and also I could practice my management skills in Microsoft. So finally, I joined Microsoft. So this is the second learning from the story. I think innovation needs exposure. Just imagine, if I hadn't joined that Stanford program, I bet that I will still, got quite good offers from good companies. But I probably decided to join a big company and, became promoted and then be a high executive as everybody else are doing. But because of that exchange program, it sort of changed my route of my life. And so that you need to be more open and exposed to different kinds of views in order to innovate. Just like what you're doing right now, right? You guys are joining this conference and this youth leadership conference. So this is kind of a way to be exposed to the whole world. So after I joined Microsoft as a programmer, I started to design features, write specs, and manage products for Microsoft Windows. And one word I learned from Microsoft was scenario. So what is scenario in Microsoft? It means when and how and why users would use those features. So for example, before we design a new function for Office, we will tell a story about a user encountering a problem or wanted to do a task, right? So in order to finish that task, he or she would follow the steps 1, 2, 3. And this is called a user scenario. So I found that scenarios are also very important to innovations. Usually when we have a new idea, we often tend to jump into the conclusion that it's useful. We got excited, but then we start to design the details of the features. However, if you think about the user scenarios when users are using them and why users are using them, then the designs might be completely different. So many innovations start with a good idea, but end with a bad design. That's why scenario is very important to innovations. And this picture is actually after I started my company. So I joined Microsoft in 2005, and then in 2007, there was a big event in the United States. So the first generation of iPhone was released. And at that time, I was in US for a business trip. I watched this Steve Jobs presentation, and it was so exciting. I'm so excited. So when I first saw iPhone, I just told my colleague in Microsoft that this would change the world. And I wrote down a lot of business ideas when I was in college for startups. It's like my idea banks in a small notebook. And there were about like 20 to 30 ideas. Most of them are about internet websites, like just like Facebook, right? So it's social networks. But after I saw iPhone, I thought that the future will be on mobile. So I thought that maybe I can just give up those ideas about websites and start to think about what are the opportunities on the mobile phones. So I bought an iPhone as soon as it was available. And it's really cool, but it's really also, it's really hard to use. You know, the first generation of iPhone is full of bugs. The connection was very poor, and the system often crashed. But the worst thing, which almost is killing me, is about typing experience. You know, before iPhone, people use BlackBerries or Palm, which has a physical keyboards, right? But since iPhone has no keyboard, no physical keyboard, it only has virtual keyboard on touchscreen. And the typing really becomes very challenging. So you often have many typos on the touchscreen and spend a lot to correct them at that time. So I think I talked to my friends that iPhone, you know, it's the most challenging for iPhone would be the typing experience. And then I asked myself, why not design a new keyboard app for touchscreen devices? So I came up with a new idea about the keyboard design. And then I discussed with one of my colleagues in Microsoft. And we got both excited. He was also a geek. So he worked with me together on a prototype within the weekend. And then we further refined it and updated. And then we upload the first version to the Reddit forum. And only after 4 days after that post, we checked the server, and we found that it has over 100,000 downloads within those 4 days. Right? So we were very impressed. So therefore, we decided to quit Microsoft and start up our own company. And the keyboard app is called TouchPal. That became our first app. Soon, TouchPal keyboard became very popular, and we participated in the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. We won the Mobile Innovation Global Award. And this picture is the moment that I raised up the prize at the stage. So I was very excited because it was the first time and the only time that Chinese company winning this award. And actually, there were a lot of startups from all over the world which joined this competition, and many of them are very innovative. So I asked one of the judges why they decided to select us as the winner. And he told me that it was mainly because that our innovation can influence a mass market, like it will influence almost every mobile users. So it has a huge impact. So I think this is another thing about innovation is what kind of impact of your innovation would bring to this world, and how many people would potentially be benefit. If it's an innovation with huge impact, it will become a mission and a vision of your startup, and then you can use it to attract more talents. And when at that time when I got up every morning, I I only slept for about 4 or 5 hours a day, but I really got excited after I saw the user feedback emails. So this is, I feel like I'm having impact in this world. Oops. Sorry. So, and then we started up the company in 2008, and in 2012, I received a phone call from my lawyer, and she said, "Congratulations, Michael, you are sued." And I said, "What? Why you congratulate me if I'm sued, right?" And then she explained to me. So basically, our company was sued by a public company in the United States. And it's not only the district court lawsuit, but also they sued us in the ITC, the International Trade Commission, for patent infringement. And she said that usually the lawsuit will cost about $3 to $5 million US. And at the same time, the company that sued us will also pay like the same amount of money or even more. Like they will pay for like $5 million US. So she said, if you're nobody, they're only going to sue you in the district court, but they are only going to sue you in the ITC because you're really important to them, right? So that's why they're willing to spend so much money. But at the same time, she said, "I'm sorry, because this is really a tough game for startups, right? Because at that time, we just raised $10 million US. And then I guess my investors definitely don't want us to spend that money, like most of the money is in one lawsuit. But not only about money, I think it's about, you know, the winning chance. So I checked in the history and found that you know, no more than 1% of the Chinese companies who are involved in such lawsuits actually won the cases. Right? So it is, and not to say that we are just a startup, and then our competitor was a public company in the States. Right? So they are 100 times bigger than us. But then my partner and said to me, "Why not we, you know, dismiss and then don't, you know, ignore them and don't take in the fight." And then the lawyer said that no, it's not an option, because if you ignore the lawsuit, then your products, your apps will be banned from the United States. Like it cannot reach any US users. And then your competitor can told Google and Apple, you know, to remove your apps from the market or from the App Store. And in that case, because at that time we are mainly focusing on in the international market, so that means we are probably going to give up the global market, and that's definitely not an option. Right? So then we decide to fight with them, and I selected the best law firm, IP law firm in the States. It's Finnegan. And then I chose the best lawyer who present the Samsung and fight with Apple for those patent litigations. But then I said that we don't have that much money, right? So we're going to do most of the jobs by ourselves to save some money. And then we finally, in the end, we first invalidated one of their patents, like they sued us for 5 patents, right? So we invalidated 1 patent, and then the 3 patents we had non-infringing from the court, and then there were only 1 patent left, and then their lawyer called us and said that they want to draw the case and then stop the litigation. So it was fortunate that we finally won this patent war, and it was very lucky for us, right? But from that story, actually, I learned about one thing: is innovation is about disruption. So it means it's usually disruptive to the traditional ways or products, right? So before we launched our keyboard app, so our competitor dominates the market, but because our apps were way much more innovative and has a better user experience. So that sort of disrupt their business model. So their clients or came to us, right? So they felt threatened. So this is why in many times innovators would not only face the challenge from the failures, but also from their competitors. Right? So in order to innovate, you need to be very strong and to face those disruptions and face those competitions. And in 2018, our company got listed in the New York Stock Exchange, and many people thought that, wow, that's a big event, and then after 10 years, you finally reach that. But actually, I like 2 years before that time, 2016, I was really extremely concerned about the company because it was still, like by then, it was still losing a lot of money, and we didn't have much revenue. So we didn't find the good business models. So at that time, I split the team into some small teams to try to find some new ways to figure out how to make money. So because keyboard, like at that time, our major product was keyboard, but still we couldn't make a lot of revenue by keyboard. So we decided to develop some other apps like the mobile games and about the fitness apps and even some social apps. But we didn't know what was the right direction, and we also didn't know what to follow, like what was the right strategy. So we only can try and make experiments. Right? So but actually at that time, I found a company called ByteDance, actually the developer of TikTok. At that time, the TikTok was not released, and even the Chinese version of TikTok, Douyin, was not released yet. Their only product known was 今日头条. It's a news app, right? But when I talked to one of my friends in ByteDance, I found that actually their core product is not 头条. Instead, it's their experimental platform. So basically, how they design apps is they would make, for example, 20 apps at the same time, and then they would do experiments. So, and then they will track the data, and finally, those apps with better data they will invest more into it. So I certainly found that their success was not accidental, right? So they have a way to innovate. So that's why we also learn from them, and then build our own platform, the growth platform, and track those data, and then do a lot of experiments. And finally, in a very short period of time, we got very good data. And then our revenue source. So only within 2 years, we got IPO. So this is another thing about innovation, because we all know that innovation is related to failures, right? But how you do innovation is you deal with them as experiments. So that means first you expected that you will fail, and second, you actually have a way to do the experiments more efficiently, right? Then you can track the data, and you build tools to reduce the failures, and then to increase your success rates. So this is actually my understanding about innovations. The innovation is about interest. It is about exposure. It's also about the scenarios and experiments, and also disruptions. But with all that, I would conclude my presentation by my own feeling. This is not by others. It's my own feeling about innovation. I think innovation is full of pains, but it's awesome. So enjoy it. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Michael, for sharing your experiences. It is now time for some Q&A. So if you have any questions for Michael, be sure to leave them in the chat and we'll address them soon. But now let's get started with the first question. So first off, a lot of people are planning on majoring in computer science, and the field seems like it's been exponentially growing lately, especially over the last few years. And I even have plans on considering it as a major myself. So do you have any advice for people entering into the field? And what do you think makes computer science special, or something to consider investing your future in?
Yeah. I think that computer science would be a necessary tool for almost everyone in the future. Right? So even if you don't select computer science as your major, it probably will be good for you to learn 1 or 2 programming language, right? So like Python or Java or C. And I think in the world of future, there will be mostly AI. So either you will be you program, or you become an artist, right? So this is the future. And then as for the major, I think I interview a lot of students majoring in computer science every year, and the most interesting thing is I found that it's not important what major you select, but about what you are really passionate and interested in. So I saw students from computer major who just did the school projects and then no more. And then I also saw many students who are not in computer science major, but they, actually build their own apps or games, or they join in those open source projects and contribute to them. So I think the most important thing again is where's your passion, right? So you should definitely choose the thing that you are passionate about. So if you're asking me whether you should choose computer science, I definitely would say if you're interested in, then you definitely should choose it. But don't choose it because you think it's useful. Or you think it's the best, major. In that case, you probably would, even if you major in computer science, you probably would not be a top program. If you wanted to learn the programming skills, whatever major you select, you can just learn by yourselves. There are plenty of courses online.
All right, thank you. Some of our audience members were also wondering, there are a lot of high schoolers or younger people out there who are also interested in innovation and creating their own products, or maybe like, starting their own businesses. But it seems like almost age can be something difficult there, being such a young person and confronting so many things to do with innovation, because like you said, there is pain in innovation. And with that, do you have any advice for younger people who may be interested in following a path like you did?
Yeah, so actually maybe not follow the path as I did, but maybe it's, definitely a lot of people can find their own way, or even better, much better than me, right? So first of all, I think there was not an age for a person to start up a company, right? So especially for this generation, you guys got a lot of opportunities and very good VC funds. So, and also in Web3 area, a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs are teenagers, right? So very very young people. So age would not always a problem, but what really matters is the experience, right? So interestingly, to be an entrepreneur, you don't need to got experience after a certain age. You can actually start up your own business when you are in middle school or high school, right? So you can write your own apps, or even sell lemonade on the streets. And then the more experience, business or entrepreneurial experience that you had, most of them are part-time, definitely. The more experience you have, then the more chances that you will get succeeded, because to entrepreneur, society was the best university for them to learn, right? And then if you have joined maybe like 5 startup projects, then you're definitely way much more experienced than a undergraduate or even a graduate student or a PhD, right? So my suggestion would be, to be involved or engaged in as many projects as possible, and then try to to learn from the real world.
Great. That sounds great. And then we have another question here, which is, beforehand, when you mentioned when the first iPhone came out, you had this realization or thought that mobile would be like the future, like the new internet almost. And now with so much more coming out in terms of computer science and whatnot, do you have an idea or like thoughts as for what could be the new future now, like with stuff like virtual reality and etc.? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So I think that as for investors, like investors in Silicon Valley and in many in the rest of the world, So they found that it would be hard for startups to compete with those big giants in the traditional areas. So they start to invest in areas like metaverse, in Web3, like blockchain. I think definitely this will be just like the mobile in 2008. I think the blockchain, the Web3, it is the new, the mobile for the next 10 years. So I think if you want to, like, as a young entrepreneur, if you want to find an area, I definitely encourage you to invest some time to learn about Web3. But that being said, it doesn't mean that there will be no chances in the mobile area, right? So the one thing that it is interesting is we always start with the real world problems. So as long as you feel it's a problem, then just try to solve it. And then, like, even if you find, it's a Web2 project, maybe like sometime in the future, it will become Web3, or it will become like a part of metaverse, right? So I think this is definitely something that I'm investing. And then if for some experienced entrepreneurs, like if you worked in a company for several years, then the success for a raise will be much higher if you want to start up some business in software as a service, right? Like SaaS, or some business like some to-B services, just like Amazon Web Services, right? So those kinds of services will be more suitable to more experienced entrepreneurs.
All right, sounds awesome. We have another question here, which is, beforehand, when you talked about disruption and with your story and experience of dealing with other companies and whatnot, do you have any advice or tips for how to remain confident even when you're disrupting maybe the norm, and it can be hard to hold your ground in some cases for confidence?
Okay, so is it about, like, for example, to just in the case like I was fighting with the patent in the patent litigation, right?
Yes, like in those
cases. Yeah. So in those cases, I think that confidence is always like from several aspects. So first, confidence was from your mission, right? So you believe in it, and then you have a sense of, mission that you are destined to do it, right? you have a sense of mission, then you have the confidence, right? And on the other hand, you got that confidence from, of course, it's from your own, ability. So for example, if we actually didn't have that innovation, and we copy their patents or copy their IPs, then definitely I wouldn't have that confidence, right? So I have confidence because I believe that our product is not infringing their patents, and we are innovative. Right? So in order to get confidence, you should really have something. And the third about confidence is actually about an attitude, like life attitude, because at that time I was thinking about not really about the results. I was thinking about what can I do, and if I everything that in my life, when I was like making a tough decision, I will also always ask myself, like, after 10 years or 20 years, and if you look back, which decision would not make you regret, no matter what the result is, right? So then I would always choose that decision. So at that time, that's why I chose to, to fight with them in the patent litigation. So that also makes me confident.
All right, that's wonderful advice. And that's all the time that we have for this session of Q&A today. And thank you once again, Michael, for providing us with all this insightful information. It was incredibly, incredibly inspiring.
Yeah, it's also my great pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. And now we have some of our raffle prizes and raffle to take care of. So now if you look at our screen, the information to enter into our raffle is on there. So make sure you do that in order to win prizes like a free mini fridge or a JBL speaker. We'll now give a few minutes for everyone to enter the raffle. All right, so I will be typing in a range of numbers for Michael to choose from in the chat. And he will be picking the number and henceforth our raffle winner for this session.
Okay, I just like randomly pick a number, right?
Yes.
All right, just 1 to 120.
Yeah, choose whichever number works, whichever number you'd like to, and that'll be the raffle winner for the session.
Okay, 83.
All right, 83 it is. So that will be it for the raffle. So thank you so much, Michael, for choosing a number. Make sure to attend the closing ceremony tomorrow to see if you're that lucky number 83. This concludes day 1 of our conference. So our next seminar will be tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to attend. The event will address 3 keys to transformational leadership, featuring Julia Davis, a Robertson Leadership Scholar and neuroscience researcher at Duke University. Also, be sure to thank Michael for his presentation today. It was amazing to hear and learn from his journey and achievements thus far. We are truly blessed to have him as a speaker today. And once again, thank you all for coming today. Don't miss the next session of 3 Keys to Transformational Leadership, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, thank you, Jessica.